Welcome to Bad Dice, the UK's first Warhammer Fantasy Battle podcast. We bring you news, reviews and updates from all around the UK tournament scene. Your hosts are Ben Curry and Ben Johnson. We hope you enjoy the show, and if you do, be sure to let us know. You can contact us on thebens@baddice.co.uk or leave a positive review on iTunes. Welcome to episode 47 of the Bad Dice podcast. I'm your host, Ben Curry.
And I'm Ben Johnson.
And today we've got a wonderful episode for you. We've had an exciting interview this morning, which came a bit out of the blue, really, didn't it, Ben?
It did, yeah. It kind of came from nowhere, really.
So before we get into the who's and the what's and the why fors, we're going to just give a quick shout out to all our episode sponsors, and there's quite a few of them. So we're going to start with Odd Games this time around. Who are Odd Games, Ben?
Odd Games are an online retailer selling basically anything wargaming, from miniatures to card games to supplies, etc., etc.
Yep, and it's oddgames.co.uk, 15% off all Games Workshop products, and just great prices on pretty much everything else, so check them out. We've got Rankings HQ.
Rankings HQ. They do rankings.
Funnily enough.
Yeah.
Do they really?
Yeah, apparently.
Wow.
I've not really looked, but yeah, that's what it says on the side.
Amongst other things, so they do rankings for all sorts of game systems. They do blogs. That's the new hotness out of Rankings HQ, so you can have your own personal blog.
Yeah.
You can keep track of all your games, including tournament games and just pick-up games down the club.
Yeah, I'm a bit lax on my one of them. I don't think I've filled it in since
7th edition.
7th edition, certainly. But I was thinking more of May.
Yeah, same with me. So check them out, rankingshq.com. There's all sorts of stuff on there. It's like the Facebook for geeks, so yeah, check them out.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Social networking for gamers.
Yeah.
Unseen Lurker magazine, issue 5 is on its way. I'd have thought it would have been here by now, but Brian, Mr. Unseen Lurker, has been a bit poorly. So,
well, when this goes out, it probably will be here because.
Oh yes, yeah, you got a point.
Where are we? We're on the 25th today. It's
not
going out till the 1st, so
yeah. So by the time you hear this, Unseen Lurker will be with you.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll be able to see all sorts of goodness in there, including an interview with Alessio, battle report featuring Asger and Annas from the Danish ETC team, and all sorts of other goodness.
I'd have paid money to watch that.
To watch them play?
Yeah. It'd be like watching them fuck. God.
So that's unseenlurker.com. Check them out. They do some good prices on subscriptions and things like that, so get yourself over there. Next up, we've got Back to Basics. What about Back to Basics do, Ben?
They make bases.
Yeah.
Resin bases and resin movement trays.
And they do all sorts of just standard bases, like your 20 mil slotters, that sort of thing. Obviously legally different. And they do the inverted types. It's kind of like the War Machine ones.
Yeah, the rounded edges.
And they do scenic ones, so there's all sorts of like terrain built into your base.
Yeah.
That's the best way of describing it, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And as we all know, basing is the best way to make your army look pretty good. So do a good job of your bases, and it's half the job nailed already, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, and last but not least, Battle Foam.
Battle Foam, new sponsor.
Yeah, so protecting your army, so you don't have to. So the saying goes. Battle Foam is basically top of the line, top of the range cases. They're quite pricey. I don't think anyone would deny that.
Yeah.
But they do the best job on the market for the sort of thing that
They are pretty darn
provide.
sexy, aren't they?
Yeah, and we're going to be meeting Romeo on Wednesday
That's
at Warhammer
right, yeah,
World,
we are,
aren't we?
aren't we?
So hopefully by the time you hear this, we'll have been down there, had some games, met up with the Battle Foam guys, and we'll report back on that next week. But yeah, check out battlefoam.com for all your custom cut foam goodness, and there's a custom foam designer on the website.
Oh
isn't
yeah,
there?
that's so much fun.
How much have you been playing with that since we last spoke?
Yeah, a bit. I like the Baneblade one. It's just boom, Baneblade.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And you're done.
Yeah, one big Baneblade in the middle, and that's it. Okay, so that's all our sponsors given a quick shout out to. So, moving on to the main episode. Now, we've been to the Warlords GT recently, haven't we?
Yes, we have. Last weekend, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I think that pretty much covers our Fortnite in Fantasy, doesn't it? Warlords GT.
Yeah, a couple of other pickup games and whatnot, but nothing spectacular.
So have you played anything other than that?
I played a game down the club, 2500, using Empire and special characters as well, which I've not done before.
And what
Ever,
did
I
you
don't
go
think.
for? Any special
I
characters?
went with Balthazar Gelt.
Nice.
Yeah, he's
You're
all
not-
right.
You're not sure. You played Demons.
I
didn't
played
you?
a
Bad
Demon
matchup.
Army, which is all Slanesh and all Zinch, so it's got no armour, apart from 2 units of Seekers with a 6-up cavalry save. So, 3 of his 7 spells do nothing at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was all right. He died pretty quickly because I've made a bit of a boo-boo, but still.
Error,
Yeah, but never mind. But yeah, no, I'm toying with the idea for the GT, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, so what would you put in the army with him? Because there's a lot of points, isn't
Yeah,
there? You
he's,
only get 2,000.
he's 400. Been speaking to Andrew Chesney today because him and Andrew Isherwood took it 2 years ago, 3 years ago
I think it was 3 years ago, yeah.
when it just came out, and they had quite a bit of success. Actually, I think Ches was second and Ish was third.
They were 1 and 2 at the same
Were they
heat.
1 and 2 were
Yeah.
they? Ah, right, there you go. So I think his list was 2 swordsmen, 2 level 2s, a warrior priest, 2 knights, 2 outriders, 2 mortars, tank, Gelt. I'm pretty sure that was it.
Yep.
I can't imagine it being a lot more because you don't get that many points.
No, of course not.
We spent 700 points on wizards. So, but I'm not sure. I need to sort of try and play around with Army Builder because obviously you need some banners somewhere as well.
Yeah, because of the new scenarios.
Because the new
and that.
scenarios, yeah. So
Well,
I'm
there's
not
only
sure.
one, but you do need it for that one.
Yeah, but you could play that 5 times.
Oh, is it totally random at the GT?
Yeah. As
Okay,
far as I
fair
understand, yeah.
Didn't know that.
I think you turn up at a table and you roll.
Okay, fair
So I
enough.
think everyone can be playing different. Or you can go the other way and balls to the wind and just hope you don't roll a 4.
I'd go with that one.
I am kind of thinking that way, but I'm not sure. It kind of does ruin your weekend now. Game 1, turn up 4.
I lost.
balls.
In the next game. I lost.
Yeah.
So it's 2,000 points, so your fortitude of 3 would be fine, yeah?
Yes.
So you can have a level 4 and a BSB.
Yes.
As long as they're both, or your general and your BSB.
Yep.
As long as they both stay alive.
Yeah,
you're
general
fine.
and the banner. You're fine.
Yeah. Go with that.
Yeah, I'm not. Like I said, I need to play around on Army Builder. So,
Yeah, of course.
I need to see about that. And yeah, that's all I've done. Been painting, but more scathing.
Okay. How's it getting on? You've got what you got in front of you?
I've got sort of 2.5 warp lightning cannons and an old doom wheel.
Yeah, and you're just gonna make a anti-aircraft cannon?
I'm not sure because I obviously the Skaven army sort of kind of themed around a dwarfen army that's been smashed to bits. So I've got an old metal flame cannon, the wooden barreled one.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought about making that the base of it, but seeing these bits in front of me, I think a double-barreled.
Double-barreled warp lightning
lightning cannon.
with doom wheel bits and spikes and wheels all over it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would look good.
Kind of funky. So yeah.
Okay, you've been so you painting. You just done some slaves, yeah?
Yeah, I've done 20 slaves at the minute, which I don't know. Is it wrong to be putting 3 highlights on slaves' fur? Probably.
Yeah. Well, how many have you got to do? Slaves.
60.
Yeah, maybe.
In fact, no, it's not. It's 75.
Yeah. The thing is, you'll be pleased you've done them by the end. By the time they're all done.
Yeah, that's it.
Seems a bit rough now.
Well, I've got a bit of a plan. I'm going to knock out 50 slaves, and then I've got a couple of engineers to paint, and then knock a unit of clan rats out, paint a unit of gutter runners, sort of thing. Try and break it up a bit.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think I'll go mad.
Fair enough. Okay, so as for me, my Fortnite in Fantasy, I played a few games actually. I played the Bobo with his Lizardman Filth list before the Warlords GT. Yeah, it's not very not very good list to play. I think I learned more than he did as well, which I know he didn't really want to play me because he knew I'd learn more than he would. As it was, we didn't end up playing each other at Warlords anyway, so that really didn't matter. But it did exactly what it says on the tin. It scouts, it runs around in circles, shooting at you and shooting at you and shooting you, bombing you with the pterodons, all that jazz. It was pretty nasty. But it did give me some thought about my Dark Elf army and the way I should tweak it in which direction. Basically made me put the two level 2s with fire magic in there as well as the level 4. And level 4 went on metal, which I'm not sure was right.
Yeah.
I think death might have been... I should have gone for death, but I went for metal in the end. Didn't really get much love from it.
Did you find any times at the weekend where you're playing something just with no armour and then you're relying on your backup?
Yes, I did, but I've got the 2 level 2s to do the fireballs and the level 4 to chuck the final transmutation.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I didn't get much mileage from the metal spells anyway, even when I got them off. Or when I played you, I got Searing Doom on 2d6 and rolled a 4.
Yeah.
I played Tom Hale. I got Searing Doom on 2d6 onto a chariot, rolled a 4 as well. Only just killed it. Luckily, I did. It was just I don't know.
You didn't get a lot of luck out of transformation either, did you?
No, I didn't. I killed a lot of...
Did I destroy that?
No, you failed.
That's right, yeah.
I got it off a few times over the tournament, but I never killed any characters with it.
I got a BSB, a Beastman BSB, turned him to gold.
Yeah.
I think that was the only time I rolled it as well, because I only had level 2s.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, I played Bobo. I won the game, but it was on the Blood and Glory, and he blew his slan up. And we played on, and I'd have had it's just so hard to get victory points off. But yeah, he blew the slan up, so there we go. I won. I'll take that.
I won. I'm awesome.
Take what's there.
Yeah.
Other than that, I played AD Mac. Went over to Maelstrom Games for the first time since they've opened, I think, for a club night. I can't remember going other than that. Long time since we've been over to the Dragon Slayers Club for a games night. Sort of texting at the last minute after a couple of people had dropped out on me when I should have been playing them. And AD was like, yeah, I'm free, so I popped on down. And I used a bit of a different list for me. It's not that different as far as Dark Elf armies go, but it was the Infantry Horde. It was 20 Spears.
Now they're good.
Yeah. 20 Blackguard, 20 Executioners, 20 Witch Elves, 10 Cold Run Knights, bit of shooting support, a Hydra, level 4 and a Cauldron, 2,400 points. It was good fun to use, actually.
How did you find the Witch Elves?
They didn't do anything. They didn't even fight one man.
Oh, right, okay.
They got into combat with some peasants, which AD fled, and that was that. That was all game. They got shot a lot. 2 rounds of shooting killed them down to like 5 models.
Well, yeah, because you're running those. 2 Trebs and 10 Bowmen?
2 rounds of shooting just from 2 units of Bowmen.
Really?
20 Bowmen, yeah.
Oh.
2 rounds at short range, just killed like 15 of them. So yeah, it was. I don't know. The no armor save's a bit rough on them. So yeah, that was them. The Executioners on the other end, I was given a 15-inch charge, so I went for it. Rolled the 10, got in, smashed up some Grail Knights, ran into a Treb, smashed them up. Second Treb, smashed that up. Turned around, went into his General's unit, smashed that up. The Executioners were golden.
Yeah.
And the Blackguard, just the amount of dice you roll on the Blackguard, it's insane. The Cauldron died on turn 1, Dwellers dead. And then my infantry was still shazamming it. What are you looking at?
Dwellers on the Cauldron.
Yeah, it's a war machine. It automatically fails, so it dies.
Ah, with you, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense now.
But I got a big win from AD. It was, I think AD had some bad luck early on, and then I just punched him for
Did he
it.
not double 11 a stubborn test on his General's unit?
Yeah, I think so. But
that is a bit rough.
Thing is, it was a fully ranked up Witch Elf unit going in the side the turn after, and the Cold Run Knights possibly getting there. But
yeah,
I think by the time the General's unit, it was just a case of, do I get the extra 500 or 600 points? The rest was going down, and I wasn't losing much by then. But yeah, that was a good game. I enjoyed that one, as you do when you get a big win. Other than that, it's just the Warlords GT. I've done a bit of painting. All these infantry I've got haven't actually been painted. Rummaged around my bits box, found some more Blackguard, and turned out I'd got 14. So I stuck them to bases, sprayed them with silver primer, the army painter stuff, which is fantastic. I've started base coating them, just going to dip them. They're not too far dissimilar from the ones I've spent 2 years painting as well. That's the annoying thing.
Does that make you a little bit sad?
Yeah, it does. I mean, the metal on my old ones are probably the best metal I've done. Spent a lot of time doing it, and now I just can't be bothered to finish them.
Well, them ones I've just been looking at?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Cheeky fucker. And I can't be bothered to finish them now. I don't know. I've got 20 nicely painted ones and 20 dipped ones. And,
yeah.
they're not. once you mix them all in together, it's not going to look too far apart.
No, it's kind of disheartening, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. I think that's about it for my Fortnite fantasy. I've not done an awful lot else. Anything you want to chuck in before we go to a break?
No, it's games day tomorrow, so we're quite intrigued as to what's on show.
Some of the news coming out of Games Day before we record. We could have done recording this Monday night, really.
Well, yeah, maybe. Maybe we'll do a special.
So we've seen Warhammer Forge. Tell me a bit about this, Ben, because you know more about it than I do.
All I know is the email that I got sent yesterday from one of the Forge World newsletter, just saying that Rick Priestley and another guy, I forget his name now, have been working on this behind the scenes at Forge World for a year or so, and lots of funky things coming out for Warhammer from Forge World.
A load of artwork going to be released at Games Day.
Yeah, I assume this is going to be concept stuff and things like that.
Even some finished product, apparently.
Oh, right, okay.
So that should be interesting to see. There's talk of Dark Eldar being released, which will be very interesting to see how that will port over to Dark Elves.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, the rumours on Warseer, they're getting like 9 plastic kits or something insane.
Wow.
Yeah, well, you think, I bet those models have got to be 10 years old.
Yeah, they are.
And I think there's only maybe one that's relatively nice, and that's one of the special characters.
The Witch Elf one?
No, that's Lilith, isn't it? I'm not sure on her. She looks quite dated. But is it Incubi, they're called?
Oh, I don't know.
The rotten ones, whatever they are.
Okay.
He's quite nice. But yeah, so apparently they're getting no end of new plastics and a completely new range.
Oh, that'd be interesting to see.
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of another time that's happened.
What, a whole new range?
A whole new range.
The last one was the current Wood Elves. And that was some time ago.
Yeah, it would have been, wouldn't it, actually? Yeah. So what's that?
Other than before that, Bretonians and Lizardmen with 2 new races released.
Yeah, but they were, again,
that
they
was
were
a long time ago.
New
with
race.
a new game, new edition, and new...
When were the Wood Elves at? Got to be 2005, 2006.
Yeah, it'd have been 2005.
Blimey.
So that's 5 years ago.
That's somewhat depressing.
Yeah, because you bought the army when they came out, didn't you?
That's right.
Jumped on the gravy train.
I saw one model on the on Warseer, or Portnet, I think it was called.
Portnet,
the hero with the double-ended sword down by his side.
Yeah.
And just went, that's just sex.
And didn't even use it.
I'm having them. No, I'd never used it. No. I did use it. I used him once. He was a hero in a Eternal Guard unit.
And then they went away.
Yeah, Adam Hall's used them more than I have.
Your Eternal Guard?
My Eternal Guard. I used them twice. I used them once against Martin Bunting and shot them dead in turn.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Way Watchers, 3 Units of Bowman, Hail of Doom, get them off.
I remember Martin Bunting using 20 Eternal Guard with the Rhymer's Harp against me, and I panicked him off with a Rattling gun. And he just looked at him and he was like, that was rubbish.
That was 70 quid and 20 hours to paint.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not good there. Okay, so I think there's not much else to cover. News and Fortnite and Fantasy.
No, obviously there'll be a ruckload of news Monday after Games Day.
And we'll talk about that on the next episode, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go for a break. When we come back, we're going to have an interview with Alessio Cavatore. And it's all kinds of awesome, isn't it?
It ain't bad.
So, yeah, stay listening for that after the break.
Hey dudes, just want to take a minute to tell you about the next big thing in wargaming. Rankings HQ is the new home for not only rankings across all game systems, but the latest social networking site for gamers around the world, including articles, image galleries, and heaps more. Create an account, track your personal progress, and compare results amongst friends and other gamers worldwide. Think you're the best gamer in town? Prove it at rankingshq.com. Join today.
Okay, so we have with us a very, very special guest.
Indeed.
Sort of making a habit of this now, aren't we, on the podcast recently?
We're doing okay.
But I think this could be one of our favourites. So we have with us Alessio of Games Workshop fame, and more recently he's working for River Horse Games. Is River Horse Games, Alessio?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And,
hello.
And Mantic Games. So yes, just say hello to the listeners, and we can take the interview from there.
Well, hello everybody. It's a pleasure to be here.
Good stuff. Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. Okay, so first and foremost, before we get into the main bulk of the interview, I want to find out are you actually a gamer, or is it just a job for you? Is it something that you've done in the past, away from the job, or did you get into gaming because of the job?
No, actually, I think it's impossible to get into this job without being a gamer first.
Yes.
I don't think it's one of those jobs. I mean, if you work as a games designer, or a painter, or something that has creative bit in it, I think you are first a hobbyist, and then you turn into somebody who works into the hobby. If you're a manager or, or an accountant, then you can end up working for this hobby without having any knowledge. But if you're into the creative side, of course, it has to be a passion. It has to be something that you love to do. So yeah,
Yes.
I was first a gamer, and then I became a games designer. Yes.
First a gamer. Okay, so tell us a bit of background about yourself then, with regards to the gaming side of things, away from the job. How did you get into it, and how did that take you to? Was Games Workshop your first job in the gaming industry?
Yes, Games Workshop was definitely the first job in this environment. But I started toying, as we said before. I started my hobby a lot earlier. I started playing with little HO scale Airfix and Eschi toy soldiers when I was, 6, 8, something like that. I had these huge bags that you buy on the seaside with all the toy soldiers inside. And first was a case of putting them on the beach, creating a fortress, a fort, place them in, and then throw little stones at them, which actually is fantastic. It's still good fun to this day. I still do it, and I was doing that with the Paris last year in the seaside in Italy. It's great because it's you throw a little stone, you see the explosion, poof, and the toy soldier falls over. You're like, hey, dead! Best rules ever.
Yeah, I like that.
And to this day, on that beach in front of my house in Italy, on the seaside, you still occasionally unearth some toy soldiers from ages past that got buried in a battle. It's fun.
Some relics of older days, right? Toy soldiers.
Items.
Yeah. So it started like that, and then it was a case of I read some books, some battle books, and on those books there was like some information like on Second World War first, and then there was 4 games. You just opened the pages at the end of the book, and you had some counters and stuff. You play like a little intro to wargaming. So those were great. And then it was D&D, the first kind of role play, and I was actually thinking that I didn't have enough time for things like Warhammer and stuff because it just looked so demanding. But then I broke my leg badly, and so I had suddenly a lot of time.
Yeah, it kind of does that to you, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've been there. I've done the same. Broke a leg and sat there painting for days and days and days.
That's right. Well, I'm not into painting, but for me it was a case of started to write army lists, started to study my Skaven army, which was the first one, and start playing games, really, because you can do that while sitting, which obviously I was doing a lot of kendo before then, and kendo with a broken leg,
Not so much.
not easy. Warhammer with a broken leg, yeah, you can do that.
Okay, so how did this go from just sat around with a broken leg playing with your Skaven army to actually getting into Games Workshop?
It came about by me, I think, winning the Italian Warhammer tournament, I think 1995, probably. And when I say that, it sounds like glorious. Probably were 10 guys playing at the time, but well, okay. I think I'm selling myself a bit short here. There were at least 20, and we played, and I won that, which means that the next year, the year after, I was defending the title in another tournament with probably even 30 people. The hobby was growing, and there was a guy there looking, basically scouting for Italian people that were kind of available or willing to come to Britain because they were starting the Italian business, so the Games Workshop Italy for translation and Italian products. And so we talked. Oh, by the way, his name is Gianpaolo Brisigotti. So
right,
you may...
okay, yes. We've heard of him, definitely.
So yes, you know him, I'm sure.
You're looking blank, Ben.
A little bit.
So is he one of the managing directors at Battlefront?
Absolutely.
Yes.
He is the guy in charge of Battlefront,
Yep.
co-owner. Obviously, the owner is another person, is Peter Simunovic.
Yep.
But Gianpaolo is pretty much the
brains behind the operation.
Got you.
the guy that runs it,
Yeah.
effectively. Yeah.
Knows what he's talking about then.
Yeah. So he recruited you then, basically. He thought you look keen and we'll have you.
Indeed. It did. We spoke in English, so I saw that my English was all right for a translation, and my Italian was fine, and I had the right credentials for that. And so I moved to Nottingham. I dropped university, almost close to the end, and came here to work. My parents were delighted, as you can imagine.
I bet they went nuts.
Yes. Well, yeah, it was funny because, well, in the end, my dad is a bit of a philosopher. He went, "Well, it's your life. I think it should be better. It's better if you actually finish university because you're so close to the end. But if you want to go," and then basically we agreed that I would try, see how it went, and then if it didn't work, come back and finish university.
Okay.
But it went well, and I managed actually to finish that degree with the Open University while I was working a few years ago. So,
Oh, excellent. That's good news then.
yeah, so it kind of appeased him a bit. Yes, and then I started working as a translator. Translated for a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. And while I was translating, I kept playing lots. I won 2 staff tournaments in Games Workshop, Warhammer. And I annoyed the designers a lot. As I was doing translations, I was going to talk to Andy Chambers, Jervis, Gav, who else was there at the time? Nigel, Rick himself, and particularly Tuomas Pirinen, because at the time he was the Warhammer head kind of guy. And I kept asking them questions, proposing changes, finding things. And eventually, as well as all this gaming and this kind of game designery stuff, I also started writing stories in English. And the first story was actually, when I mean story, I mean little color text bit for Warhammer, for the books. And the first one was a bit about the Dogs of War. And that actually is from Italian Renaissance that I just Warhammerized, and has been used in the book. Nigel used it. And so the guys knew I was a good gamer and knew my stuff about the rules. They saw I could write story, little text as well. And so they... When there was a position of game designer open, we had a chat, and Rick Priestley and Tuomas Pirinen kind of went, "Yeah, I'll give you a shot."
Excellent. So you was rubbing your hands together, and it's like, I'm in.
Well, believe it was a difficult decision because it meant, I mean, working here for Games Workshop Italy meant that at some time the idea was to go back to Italy.
Yeah.
So back to your family, friends, food, and weather. But that was a hard choice. It was one of those places in life where you go, well, my life could lead this way, and if I take this job, it's bye-bye Italy. I'm staying here for however long. So it wasn't an easy choice, but yeah, it was too appealing, and so I took it. Yeah.
Yes, I can imagine it. It must have been difficult, but yeah. And on the flip side, you get to live in sunny Nottingham.
It is sunny.
It is sunny now.
Yeah, it's sunny now, but that's it for the rest of the year.
Okay, so you mentioned that they had to know that you were good with the fluff side of things. You could write the stories. How important on the games development side of things was the fact that you could write the stories as well as the rules? Is that something that's taken into account? Or?
Absolutely. I mean, a games designer, particularly if you work for a company that requires that level of background and rules, needs to be able to do both to a certain degree. Certainly, my strength is more in the rules than the background, of course, but I can do both. Yeah.
And so, once you were in on the games development, and how does that work once you're in? Do you tag on with someone? Do you shadow someone and follow what they're doing? Or are you just dumped with a big project in your lap all in one go?
That's funny. The first day I move into the studio, I go, oh my God, I'm going to the design studio. I must be perfectly organized and great processes and everything. And I walk in, silence, tumbleweeds, nobody kind of says anything to me until I get to the manager at the time, Gordon Davidson, which, again, is a Battlefront man now. And he looks at me and goes, what are you doing here? Kind of thing. And I go, you gave me a job? Right. Yes, okay. So I get shown into the games development area where I was expecting a desk, a computer, something, and there was nothing. People looked at me kind of like, oh, yes, you, of course. Yes, it's today, isn't it? Oh, yeah. Have a chair. Have a notepad and a pen. That's it, sit there. So that was my first work position. And I started, basically Tuomas was writing the Vampire Counts for 4th edition, I believe it was. Was it? 4th, fourth. I think it was fourth. Too many editions ago. But
This is
the first time we had
the first time you separated from Undead.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, Vampire Counts. The first Vampire Counts book, effectively. And he tasked me with, he was thinking about dividing into the families, and he went, I would like every family to have some powers and abilities and stuff. Can you jot down ideas and write them up if you can about, what would you give to this family, what would you give to... So my very first job was actually writing out the vampiric powers for the 4 families.
So how does something like that? Obviously, you said to you, "I've got a few ideas on this." What was you straight away thinking? Right, what can all these rules do? Or did you go straight into the story? How was your personal game development technique for that sort of thing? How did that come about? What was what was the process then?
But clearly, at the time, it wasn't a very clear process, and by no means is a clear process. That it's a very organic process still. But what you learn for the years, and I guess in a way we started to do that there in a kind of an intuitive way, is that the rules, good rules, come out of the background.
Okay.
You think the background. You think, for example, in this case, this vampire is noble and aristocratic. Okay, so I imagine that in the background he would be able to do this, and that. This would be his trait. So you start from representing the world, the IP, and you go, right, okay, and based on those ideas, then I write a rule that represents that best. Because a good rule would be a rule that people would intuitively understand.
Yeah.
Because it comes from a story, from something that you can imagine and you can relate to. That's how it went. That's kind of how it goes, really.
Yeah, okay. I never thought of it like that, but yeah, that's why your game's developing.
Really?
And I'm an electrician.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on forward from there, you was at Games Workshop a hell of a long time. Was it 13 years?
Yeah. 13.
So you've covered a lot of projects in the time now. How did you go from helping on the books and things like that to becoming like a lead writer on things like Warhammer and 40k and the Lord of the Rings strategy game as well?
I guess is a combination of being in the right place at the right time, and I guess some skill in people trusting your ability to do some things and giving you tasks. And obviously, if you can meet those tasks well enough and they're happy, they'll probably try you something bigger next time. And yeah, it goes a bit like that. The first step was, if you want, being given your own book as a lead writer, which was The Empire for me. And the next edition was 5th edition, wasn't it?
Yep.
So my first full book where I was lead writer. I wrote pretty much all of it. Well, a few pages probably by other people, but yeah, background rules, everything. And after a few Warhammer books, quite a few Warhammer books, in fact, I was given the Lord of the Rings as the first time that I actually was given responsibility for a system.
Yep.
Was actually when Rick decided that he had enough after doing the Fellowship of the Ring, which we developed together. It was me, him, Andy Chambers, Gav, all together. But obviously, because I'm a nutter about Tolkien, I was probably the most enthusiastic. a bit too much, probably. Uber geek. But yeah, then they gave me the system, and I started to run a system there. It was Lord of the Rings, took it to where it is now, really, as far as the rules go. And after that, they gave me 40k.
Yep.
4th edition, where I kind of was part of the team that did the rules. And then Warhammer 7th, which actually is the first one where I was effectively in charge of the rules side of things. And eventually then 40k 5, where actually again I was then in charge of the rule side again, and that was, I think, the best job I've done for Games Workshop. Definitely 40k 5, I think, is my swan song.
Your swan song, yeah. So 40k 5 is an interesting one. It's on my show notes actually. Now this is the first thing we saw of True Line of Sight. Now obviously that's coming to Warhammer 8th edition as well. What was the thinking behind this? Because it's had mixed reports from the gamers. Obviously, Warhammer, you're a tournament player yourself. It's never been aimed at a tournament game, but then it does. The True Line of Sight's the one that comes up with the issues during the tournament game. Did you think about this sort of thing when you was developing it, or did you think the cinematics of it and that outweighs the strict tournament side of the chess style? It's got to be like this, got to be like that.
Before I answer that, can I ask you a question myself?
Okay.
Before Through Line of Sight, did you have discussions about line of sight during tournaments?
Yes.
That kind of answers it, doesn't it? But
you did, but they were much easier to solve.
were they?
I think, yeah, especially with things like the laser pens that we've got and stuff like that.
Were they easier to solve? I remember some situations where you had like level 3 things in front of level 2 things, but one was in a combat, so you could ignore it. Then there were endless discussions about application of rules, and I don't know. Basically, the point I was trying to make is that because it is wargaming, there will always be discussions about that. The only way you could stop completely discussions, like you said, is to do something like chess, where you have a square grid, then it's easy, then it's very easy. If there isn't, you have a free environment like a war game, then there will always be those kind of discussions. The reason the process of getting to real line of sight was actually a very interesting one, and something that gave me a lot of worries. Like you say, I am a tournament player, and I was afraid of changing it radically. And for months, I was looking at it, trying different ways, talking to Rick and the other guys, Jervis in games development and Gav, and we tried a lot of things. And eventually, I think the real line of sight worked on 2 levels for me. First level is that, like you say, is very cinematic. It's very brings you into the story. You're in there. You look from behind the toy soldiers. You see the battle from an angle that often you have never seen before, in a way, because you kind of looked at it from the top. Particularly top people like me and you, But actually getting down there, getting into the things, you get into the terrain, in the squad, in the middle of your toy soldier. You look what they are seeing. I think is very rewarding. And the more I was trying that, the more I liked it. I loved it. It was great. And obviously, that's a very good and important element of it. But thinking about the tournament side and the competitive game, if you want, yes, of course, occasionally you will have your arguments. On the other end, the rule is very, very simple. It's very easy to write. It's very contained. There's not a lot of text and convoluted rules, etc. It's a simple rule. Mm-hmm. The rule is very simple. Can you see it? Yes, no. If you're not sure, roll a dice. It's a simple rule. Of course, the application of that rule sometimes can, when people are doing it, are not being objective, but they're obviously trying to gain an advantage.
The nice guy finishes last sort of rule, isn't it? Yeah, I can see. Oh, all right then. Yeah.
Yes, there's a bit of that. But on the other end, that's wargaming.
Well,
all the rules, every single rule. If people are being like that, they can be on anything, can they? You can have that on, any level. If you move the bar somewhere else, they will just start arguing a bit more. So we thought that in the end, the benefit, the beauty of getting in there, and the simplicity of it, and actually, if you don't play nasty, it works beautifully. It just works beautifully, and is the most intuitive thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is nothing more intuitive than that. Can you see? I just bent down. Of course, you guys can't see that, but I just bent down and looked along the table. And you go, yes, of course I can, or no, I can't. And if you're honest about it, you go, there's a bit of stuff in the way. Not really sure. Should we roll a dice for it? Or maybe, yes, maybe I can see it, but you give me a good cover save, kind of thing. Okay. That works. I'll be
honest,
fine.
I've not had any real issues with it. I've been to, 3 8th edition tournaments now, and not had real problems.
No, I mean... And we don't play 40k, so we've not encountered it from that side, have we?
You don't play 40k?
No.
No.
Ground bases.
Yeah. If it's not got corners, it's no good.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so while we're on the subject of tournament play, you having your background in tournament play, did this affect the way you wrote your rules and the way your rules development worked throughout your career? How does it relate to the rules writing? Certainly things like, we know you're a chess fan, Magic the Gathering, them sort of games, they're really aimed at the competitive element side. The Games Workshop ones aren't so much. Did that enter your head while writing the rules?
It's been an evolution, actually, in my head regarding that. I started as a power gamer, definitely. I was really... when I was at the top of my form, I was certainly a nasty opponent. I wasn't smiling much. I took it really seriously. And I wanted rules that worked perfectly. I wanted crystal clear rules that work, leave no space for doubt or discussion or anything. That was kind of what I wanted in my head when I wasn't writing rules, when I was playing as a gamer. And I was kind of blaming this game designer, kind of going, what the hell? These people don't know their jobs. What the hell? Why can't they get these rules right? Oh, they're so incompetent, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. It was obviously things we were shouting, like, oh, these people don't know, rah, rah, rah. And I've done a lot of that. I remember one particular episode which is really funny in hindsight now. I was defending a title in Italy, as I told you, and John Paul was scouting there, and I was kind of like top tables, kind of battling for the honor and winning again, and, completely absorbed into the game. And we get to this rules debate, of course. And Jervis was a guest. Invited there. And so obviously we go, Jervis Johnson is here. He will know, of course. He's written this other book. My opponent was playing Dark Elves, so I was like, he wrote that book, so clearly he knows everything. And so we go there, and Jervis looks at it. We present the situation, and he looks at it and goes, I don't know, roll a dice. And I was so upset. I was like, What? You must know the answer. What's this? I didn't shout at Jervis, but we kind of went, oh my God, this guy doesn't know the answer. It's terrible. Oh my God. And, 13 years later, I feel ashamed and sorry for that. Because now I've seen it all from the other side, from Jervis's side, and I'm kind of going, yes, he was right, of course. There was no answer. It was one of those bits in wargaming where, it's a principle that you learn after a while. Because of the environment of wargaming, I've said this already, you can't really cover every possibility.
No,
there's
so
too many
much,
variables.
yeah.
Yeah, there's too many variables, and the way that people build their models, the way that the table is laid out, the terrain, and the freedom of movement, it's beautiful, it's great, it looks fantastic, and that's why we like the hobby, but you can't expect it. You cannot physically write rules that are as tight as chess or even Blood Bowl, things that have a grid, have squares or hexagonal grid. Now, if I was listening to this 12 years ago, 15 years ago, I probably would be thinking, this guy doesn't know his job either. He's an incompetent buffoon. Clearly, he cannot write rules. That's why he's saying that. I don't know. That might be the case, but frankly, I've seen people like Rick Priestley, Jervis, people that have been doing this for twice as long, 3 times as long than I have. Frankly, people whose job, whose work I've still, use a lot, and I've learned from them, and they're kind of like, I don't know, the giants on whose shoulders we are working, really. But you talk to them, and they will give you the same answer. And frankly, I guess is part of the development of a designer. You get to the point where you go, wait, there cannot be completely watertight rules. What you can have is nice, intuitive, easy, simple rules that are easy to learn, easy to play, and kind of follow the logic of what the soldiers on the table should be doing or not be doing. And there will be those gray areas. And the funny thing is, your guys play a lot of games. It's very rare you don't find a game where at least a situation where you go, that's kind of a bit odd, but we'll have to kind of make it work. That situation comes out again and again and again and again in every rule system I've seen and every time I play it. So I think it's innate, is in the nature of wargaming, and you have to be prepared that sometimes you will have to just, with your opponent go, this is not really clear. Either we agree how this should work, and if we don't agree, maybe because we're in a tournament, so there's no way we can agree, then we roll a dice for it. Yeah. But we have to accept that will happen. Of course, some nasty people will exploit that, and even though it's clearly strange looks have been exchanged between interviewers. And even when you know that you don't have line of sight, but there is a little bit of a doubt there, you could go, I can see you. Because you cannot really be proven wrong 100%. So in that way, you're actually exploiting something, but that you're not being honest. And unfortunately, there's no policing for that, other than a referee that tells you, come on, don't be stupid. That's the job of the referee. But so I am now convinced that a complete tight system is not possible for wargaming. But what I try to replace it with, see my mantra of simplicity, is that keep it simple. More rules, I don't think, make a better game.
No, of course. I'll agree with that, definitely. Okay, so sort of on that subject, you've been credited in the 8th edition rulebook as a help with the game development. Now, how much of a hand did you actually have in that?
Oh, well, I was an editor during that process, so I read drafts and corrected them, and found loopholes and typos and problems, and kind of I hassled Matt quite a lot about asking him questions, and part of it was just technical stuff, but a lot of it was also flavor and taste about rules, which obviously we all have different opinions and stuff. On the other end, what Matt was doing was very clear. They had a very clear brief of making the game, I don't know, friendlier, I think is probably the best way to describe it. And he did a great job at it. I think the game is more relaxed, is written in a nice, pleasant way to read, is a fantastic book. The rules are possibly, like you said, less oriented towards tournament play and a bit more towards friendly play, which, it's a very willing choice. And even though in some cases I may not agree on a personal test, but that's my taste. It's nothing to do with being the right or the wrong choice. I was then playtesting. I was helping with the development, certainly. I've done some writing in the background section, but yeah, not much, obviously, because I was an editor there. Yeah.
Okay, so when these games are out, and like you say, there's rules questions during the games, even in the new edition, there's some stuff, although it is pretty tight. Obviously, FAQs is a big thing, which it comes back to. Once these rules have been argued about and they're found to have problems, what's your opinion on the FAQs? Because I know for a long time Games Workshop didn't deal with them really. There was a long period of just nothing coming out of the company with regards of corrections to the rules. But then now with the 8th edition, it's just like it's straight away, isn't it? It's bam, bam, bam. The books they're just updated all the time. Is this something you agree with should be done, or are you of the opinion of once it's out, we'll live with our flaws?
Well, funnily enough, the very last job I've done for Games Workshop, indeed, I wasn't finished with it when I left, was specifically those PDFs, the FAQs for the 8th edition coming out. That was my last thing, the last job. Right. The first job was the vampire counts, powers. The last job was those FAQs for the 8th edition. I think they are necessary for as a customer service kind of service you offer to the customer. I think possibly over the years we've gone a bit too. Basically, we try to answer too many of them. There's a limit, and it is a very difficult limit to gauge, as in which ones are actually perfectly valid, solid questions that you need to answer, and which ones are actually just a bit indulgent, kind of like, you could find the answer if you read the rules, but you haven't really read the rules very carefully, but we'll answer you anyway. But that encourages people to ask millions of questions, and then you end up with a volume of questions that you can't really understand. There's so much stuff.
Is that how you answer them? Is it literally just the most asked questions?
It's a big mix of different factors. There's deciding what becomes an FAQ and what actually is not answered, what is just an errata, what is an errata, what's an FAQ. It's a very big grey area where obviously there's no set rules. You can't really measure that, and so somebody has to make a call. And for the 8th edition, at the beginning, it was me. I don't know who finished the job. I guess Jervis. I don't know, but so you have to kind of go, right, this is a very important thing we need to correct. Like, this stat is wrong here, says 4, says 5 there. Obviously, everybody would agree that it's changing. Easy. And then you go, right, this question, really, what color is the white horse of this guy? You go, well, frankly, I don't need to answer that one, kind of thing. And then there's all thing in between where, it's like, oh, is this really a big issue, or are people just being willingly don't want the rule to be like this? So I keep asking the question but to make it go away. But no, sorry, the rule is like that. It's a big gray area. It's a big thing where personal decision has an impact on which one is important, which one is not. I don't know who makes the calls now there, but for quite a few years it was me. Those last few years, yeah.
So you definitely agree then that it's something that probably does need to be there, but you do need to tread carefully as to how much you put into it.
Yes, where you draw the line, effectively.
Okay. My next question is regarding sort of game balance within. Once the rules have been pretty solid for pretty much every edition we've seen. Yeah. There's not been an awful lot that needs to be done with the rules as a whole. It's the army books that have been coming out, that imbalance within the books. Now, is this something that Games Workshop were aware of when you were writing the books? Is it something that was encouraged, or I mean, how did that process work? Obviously, the demons, the vampires, the dark elves are the most recent ones in the last edition. They sort of blew everything out of the water in the past.
The demons.
Was it something that you were aware of while writing the books, and you encouraged just to move the game forward, or was it something? I don't know. What's the process behind that?
Certainly not something has been encouraged. Absolutely, clearly, some armies being a bit too good is not something you really want for your system, because obviously it kind of makes the old system a bit weaker, at least in the eyes of people that like competitive gaming. That would obviously kind of damage the reputation of the game. So it's something you don't want. How it happened as a mix, I guess, as usual, pressure on designers, different designers with different styles, and pressure, I think, there's a time issue there where some people are busy doing other things and can't really concentrate on checks and balances, and sometimes some projects just don't get play tested enough, get rushed through. So that it's a busy workplace, and you can't often devote all of the time you want to the projects you have, and so yes, sometimes something gets slightly out of sync with the rest. I think it's unavoidable on a company that size and with so many people involved.
Okay, so it's not something that was like a policy of power creep to make the new book better than the rest, so people.
It's all there to sell to soldiers, don't you know?
This is like a
It's
It's
I know
something that
it
keeps
sounds-
conspiracy theory. Yes.
maybe not the conspiracy theory, but it's not even a bad thing, in my opinion. If the new books are supposed to be more powerful, it does get people buying them, but it also keeps things exciting. If the new book comes out and it's rubbish, do people really want to play an brand new army that's just going to get beaten every time? Not really. Does it? I don't know. So that's not an issue at all then.
I can tell you with a hand on my heart, there is no such brief. There is no such policy. Possibly would require a level of competence that is not of this world. It's a bit like when you suspect the government of being nasty and doing things behind your back. They're probably not organized enough to do that.
Okay. It's something that gets asked a lot on the forums by our
Yes.
listeners and things
Yes.
like that. So I'd be doing a disservice if I didn't ask.
Well, there is an element of truth in the sense that, of course, when you write a new book, you want it to be exciting, like you said. And a way of making it exciting is to make units powerful, is to give them good stats, etc. But overall, then the checks and balances should be, but that book should be not the ultimate book that nobody can beat, because that will really break your system. So, of course, as a designer, you're tempted to give them cool, exciting rules and impressive stat lines and to match your very impressive models and background. Of course, you do that naturally. And that may result, maybe that's why there's this impression that, or maybe it's a reality, that every book is a bit better because of this enthusiasm behind it. But the rest of the books needs still to be viable. So the idea of all the play testing and the balancing is trying to make sure that nobody's left too far behind. Yeah. So yes, it's cool if this new army plays in a different way. 40k demons, for example, I was writing that and I was thinking, I need a mechanic that is completely different. I wanted to do something completely different from anything else. And I came up with that, they don't deploy. They just pop out of the... But that's potentially the implications of not being on the table, just deep striking with everything. It's devastating. So actually I went, right, need to playtest this a lot to make sure that actually is not too good. And you go... you tune it back a bit and up and try to get it to a place where it's cool and exciting, is new, potentially very powerful, but you try to build weaknesses as well in there, and the Deep Strike has this kind of randomness to it. So, cool, exciting, possibly powerful because of this excitement. Probably that's the truth. There is no policy of making them more powerful. Probably they naturally tend to be a bit good because you're trying to make them cool and exciting.
Yeah.
I think that's the effect, not an intention, not a plan. Let's put it this way.
Okay, so you mentioned playtesting there a few times. Now, obviously this is a very important thing to take into account when you're developing a game. How about external playtesting? Because I know at the moment with your Mantic stuff, which we'll talk about later, you've got an open beta on that and people can play this game. The Games Workshop used to use external playtesters in the past and then they didn't. So what are your thoughts on this?
I think it's a useful tool. It has issues, like all tools. It's a kind of a two-edged sword. One issue is secrecy. because sometimes you want to playtest stuff that is far ahead. You don't want people to know you're about to release that particular army or system or whatever. And there's leaks every time. We live in a society where information is very difficult to control, and so leaks upon leaks, and suddenly your competitive advantage is gone because people have found out of something that you don't want them to find out. So one is secrecy with external playtesting. The other issue is if you make it big, as in completely open, you get so much feedback that it's very difficult to use all of that feedback, because there's so much of it that unless you have unlimited resources of people that just read emails and answer them or whatever, then a lot of the feedback is wasted because nobody reads it. There's too much of it, simply. That's one thing. If you try to get to a mid place where actually you have closed groups where they do some playtesting of people that are, you trust and are competent for the kind of what you're looking for playtesting, you kind of get probably a good mid place. But again, then we had issues. I remember when I was working against Warship that again there were leaks, and it got really nasty. It got really nasty with people, started to sign NDAs, and the lawyers got involved, and it wasn't pleasant at all. It really felt a useful tool. Of course, it is, because it will amplify your playtesting a lot. Not an easy tool to use for several reasons. With Mantic, we are doing that, and it's been very useful. I guess it's because also Mantic doesn't have so much secrecy needs at the moment. Hopefully never, but they've been very, very open with things. So they don't really care about things come out. And there's meh. There is a very nice, relaxed meh attitude in this. It's very jolly. It's jolly good fun. Yep. It's jolly good fun.
Well, we gathered that when we spoke to Ronnie last time, didn't we?
I can imagine that's where the has come from.
Yes.
Okay, so we've already talked about tournaments a bit. We're a tournament podcast. We do cover a lot. Now, there's been a lot of talk at the moment about 8th edition as a tournament game.
But how it's been ruined. It doesn't work as a tournament game.
You see, I don't agree with that at all.
No, I don't either.
I like it. I like it as a tournament game. When it comes to comp and that sort of thing with tournaments, do you have any views on comp?
Yes.
Okay.
Censorship. Right, yes, I believe that to be unnecessary. In the sense that, in my experience, what happens there is that the organizers select some extra guidelines, rules and stuff, and layer them on top of the existing ones. And what often happens is that they just move the goalpost slightly to the left or to the right. And you go, and people just find, again, a new way of getting around things. And basically, the same way they would have exploited and broken these rules, would have tried to exploit and broken the other rules. Now, of course, on the other end, there is a very positive side to it, which is to make the hobby your own. And that's the very good thing. It's like, well, we'd like to play this way. We organize a tournament. This is what we feel is better. So for us, we play this way. And if you don't want to play, don't come to the tournament. And it makes it your own. It gives you a control over it. And people that buy into it will love it. So there's actually nothing wrong with doing that. We're just not expecting Games Workshop to do it, or the company in question that actually does that, to adopt your rules. And sometimes, of course, they will steal some good ideas if you have some good ideas. Of course, that's the way it works. But so I'm not very keen on it on a personal level. And I guess I'm not objective, because comps, rules, stuff like that. Well, it's tampering with your beautifully, perfectly formed game, and kind of implying that you haven't done a good job because you're doing. People need to add stuff. No, the game is perfect as it is, and that's the natural answer, I guess, of a proud designer of the game. So I'm possibly not the best person to ask that question to.
At least you're honest.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that about covers it on the Warhammer side of things. Is there anything you want to add, Ben?
No, I think we've covered everything.
Okay, so do you still actually play Warhammer?
I like to play lots of games. Unfortunately, since my daughter was born, my gaming life, like we were saying before, is severely reduced. So I tend to play possibly once a week a kind of game, which I have to choose then whether it's going to be my role-play game with a group I play with, or maybe a war game, or maybe a board game with the other group I play with. So I kind of have to pick and choose carefully what I'm going to play. So It's tough. It's tough, and because of collaborations I'm doing with Mantic and with Warlord Games, I recently played a lot more historical games. Definitely in my spare time, with the Perrys, with John Stallard, etc. So we play a lot of historical stuff, and I played quite a little bit of Kings of War recently, but just because that obviously keeps me up to speed with the jobs that I'm doing as a consultant. So I haven't played much Warhammer, any Games Workshop game for quite a while. Still maintain the one, when my daughter is a bit older and she can look after herself, I'll definitely get back into that. I really want to possibly get some tournaments again under my belt.
Yeah.
Go on the beach, train, get the Eye of the Tiger back.
Throw rocks model.
Exactly.
Okay, you mentioned briefly there you have a games night once a week. Is this obviously we speak to a lot of people who always say, how do you find so much time to play games and all that? And I found that doing what you say, one regular night a week it's normally good for making sure that no matter what else is going on in your life,
it's a routine, isn't it?
You've got your routine of one game a week. Do you have a good gaming group, a good size group then?
Which group of which? Well, basically, I tend to role play, and I'll do some name dropping. But I tend to role play with the likes of Graham McNeil. He's now our DM, and Phil Kelly's there, and so it's a very nice group. The people that are really into their stuff, and so the role playing is great. We play Cthulhu, we play D&D, so that kind of stuff. We play Serenity, which was a great experience.
I've heard good things about that one.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Best role play I've ever had, really. It was me and Anthony Reynolds had a fantastic... The last session of that was memorable, really. Probably the best role play in my life. It was great. Then the group we play board games with, which has Jervis in it, basically Jervis. Well, mostly, I would say, kind of Euro games style things, Puerto Rico, the kind of level of games. And then, as I said before, wargaming, I have a lot of choice there. Michael Perry just moved next door to me, so actually we'll soon have a nice gaming room there. That's So, I have a lot of choice and a lot of great people to play with. As I said, is the time that is missing, really.
Okay, so we'll have a short break. We'll have a nice cup of tea, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about what's going on in your life now with your current projects and what's going on moving forward from that.
Cool.
Unseen Lurker is a new, exciting gaming magazine covering gaming, tactics, hobby, modelling, reviews, interviews, and even the occasional zebra. Each issue has a quarter of the magazine available for download, so you can try before you buy. It's the first independent global magazine encompassing articles from generals and hobbyists all over the world. Every issue of Unseen Lurker, that's Lurker with an E, is packed with giveaways such as custom dice, t-shirts, as well as the Game of the Month as reviewed by our Unseen Lurker test dummies. For more information, check out unseenlurker.com.
Hello gamers, this is Romeo from Battlefone, and I just want to tell you about an amazing product that is available on our site. It's the new fantasy trays. We have recently released 40 new fantasy trays to take care of all of the new custom armies that are coming out for 8th edition. Along with great trays, Battlefone also offers custom cut trays, something that is exclusive to our business, meaning that if you have an odd character or a large variety of infantry or cavalry models, we can custom cut using our custom tray creator anything you're looking for. Along with that, we also have a revolutionary bag system called the pack system. These will allow you to actually fit a huge amount of models in your case. So check us out at battlefoam.com. That's battlefoam.com.
All right, so we're back from a short break talking about wrestling and why it's crap. Or
It's
not,
not crap.
as
It's
the case
awesome.
may be.
It is.
See,
Alessio agrees.
Yeah,
It
it is.
awesome.
It's crap.
Crap.
So what I want to talk about now is what you've been doing since you've moved on from GW. And I mean, you've released your game Shuro from your Riverhorse company. Now, was you developing that while you was at Games Workshop? Because the times sort of don't add up with that one.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, sure. I started when I was working on Games Workshop because I went part-time a couple of years ago when Luna was born. And so I had some time for myself, and I kind of agreed with the guys that I could do some of my own projects on the side, as long as, of course, if there was no competition. That's why Shura is chess, effectively, because clearly Games Workshop doesn't do chess. So that's, was born still when I was working there, but obviously now has been, the plan. There are plans, of course, to expand. Thing.
So was you a big chess fan before you started developing this game, and were these ideas brewing in the background for a long time, or did you just think, right, I want to make a game, what can we do? Or was it something you'd been planning for years?
Oh, no. It normally doesn't work like that. Yes, it's not that you suddenly change, let's make a game. What will it be? No. I've been toying with the idea of a chess system where you could choose your own army since I started, when I started to play wargaming, really. Because the similarity that I spotted was the exchange theory in chess, where actually, when they teach you chess, they go, well, is it worth to sacrifice a bishop to exchange a bishop for a rook? And they go, well, no, actually, the rook is worth. They give you a value, which is normally based on number of pawns. So a pawn effectively is the unit. 1, and then you go, all right, a knight or a bishop, 3 pawns, so it's worth 3. A rook is worth 5. Queen is worth, well, that's debated, but I don't know, 10, 9, depends. And then you go, right, okay, so that effectively is a point system. That literally is a point system. In chess, there is a point system. Of course, in normal chess, you don't get to do anything with it. Yeah, it's just an exchange measurement, but it's you always have the same army. And for me, it was like, I wonder if I had lots of points and I could buy chess pieces, what would I do? That was a thing that I toyed with for a very long time. And indeed, I've thought, I wonder if you can make a game where you can choose your army based on that. So that's what was the origin of Shura. And a chess fan. Well, I've played chess a lot when I was a kid with my dad, with my friends. I played in the school club for a while. I stopped when it became... But you reach a level when in a tournament where, because time is so important, you have to study openings at the beginning and then end moves and games. You literally have to study them because of the nature of chess being so scientific and being always, same layout, same is a problem that people have tried to solve for centuries, for millennia. There is a situation, particularly at the beginning and the end, not so much in the middle game, but where there is the best move is clear. There is only one move that you need to do, and that's the best move. Of course, if you have to think about the best move, it may take you hours, and you may get there, but you take you a long amount of time. But in a competition, you don't have that time. So what do you do to improve yourself? You learn it. When this position is like this, I do this. And you have to study all these moves, because that means that you don't have to think. This is the right move, this is the right move, this is the right move. It becomes second nature, yeah? And so when it got that serious, and I was a teenager, and I was starting discovering other things in life that tend to
Girls and wine.
Girls and wine.
Pretty much. Gaming, girls, wine. Remember, I'm a geek, so it was not so many girls as much as D&D. But yes, there were some girls too. And the whole idea was that it just was too serious, too much, too demanding, I think, at the time. So I kind of lapsed into, I think, what most people do, really. You play a bit of chess, you get a period of spike in your life when you really like it, but then you kind of get, when it gets really so hard, you realize how hard it is, and you go, oh my God, there's too much to it. So unless you want to become the best chess player in the world, a professional or something like that, you normally kind of disengage. But you still carry with you the rules. It's like cycling. You know how to move. You know how the pieces move. It's almost it's a common language that I wouldn't say 100% of the people know, but a lot of people know. And so that, I thought, was one good advantage of not adding rules to Shura, leaving the game what it is, basically just work on the army selection and later on the environment, so on the board, on the battlefield, but leaving the rules as they are, because everybody knows them. Which means that I can teach you Shura, or people can learn in 3 minutes, literally. I can teach you the game in 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, you can start to play. So it's that's an advantage.
Yeah, of course. Now, once you'd got your plans for the game, you developed it. Now, your next step then, you've got to find someone to publish it. Now, did you originally know that you wanted to publish it yourself and start your own company, or did you take this game to other developers?
No, never done that actually. I have a friend in Italy, a childhood friend. Really, we've been friends since we came in from a primary school kind of thing. And this friend of mine is Alberto. Is what you call a serial entrepreneur. He just never worked as an employee in his life. He always wanted his own thing. He always wanted his own stuff that he could control. And he's a workaholic, frenzied workaholic guy, which says, is a bit of an octopus with tentacles everywhere and stuff. But so he had an influence over this because he was my most normal chess opponent. Yeah, if you want to, we played a lot and he's much better than I am. He actually he went on further on than I did along that path, and it is scarily good. I mean, it's not a master or anything like that, but it's good. It's very good. And he kind of proposed that we made a company and try to sell it because he liked the idea. He thought he could sell, and he thought, why give it to somebody else? Let's make it our own. And so that's how it was born. I thought, okay, well, let's be a bit entrepreneurial about this, which is an interesting experience.
Yeah,
Tough.
I can imagine. So now it's set up and it's running. Obviously, you've got your Shuro game, but you also offer your consultancy services. And this is where the Mantic Games partnership came about then?
Yes. With Shuro, I follow my own product, and of course, as I said before, we plan to expand that.
Yes.
And the first example is, of course, Turanga. Turanga is out next month.
And this expands the number of players, doesn't it?
It turns it from a 2-player game into a 4-player game. Well, actually, I should say into a team game because it's 2 against 2.
Oh, right.
It basically does. It turns Shuro, which is chess and wargaming, into chess, wargaming, and bridge. That's pretty much what it does, because imagine you're sitting opposite your teammate and across the other two on your left and right, and you have a army that are effectively allied armies over this battlefield, and they do. So it's 2 allied armies are fighting against each other, and the trick which makes it all fantastically funny is that you cannot communicate about the game during the game. So, like in bridge, that's why I said bridge. So the idea is you agree a strategy before, you have a plan, which normally is as simple as let's take out this guy or that guy. Yeah. Well, now you normally choose one of the two, because the whole game is about getting a double whammy attack on the same guy. That's how you win Turanga.
Yeah.
Because imagine you're playing chess and suddenly the guy that plays before you puts you on the check. You move, and then the guy that plays after you puts your queen under check, threatens your queen. And when the game comes back to you, you only have a choice, which is to move your king out of the way. You cannot protect your queen, unless, of course, you can make it move your queen to protect your king. But if they have done a good job, if they set up the trap, the attack, the double attack well, you have no choice but to lose your queen.
Or
because
for your partner to get you out of the match.
That's the key. That's the key. I'm glad you say that, because actually that's the key. Your partner has to see that attack and think, what can I do to help him? Because he's going to lose his queen if I don't do anything about it. And that's where your opponent has to put either of the two enemies, actually the one that is going to take your king, under pressure himself. So he cannot take your queen because he's busy defending his king, something like that. So it goes around the table with all 4 players trying to do that to each other, trying to get the double attack. And because you cannot communicate, it's just hilarious, because you have the situations where you see the killer move. You saw the move that if your partner sees that, we win. It's victory. Next turn. That's it. Done. Checkmate. And of course, he doesn't see that, and he does something silly on the other side, and you go, no! But if you did that, if you've shown there was something there, you kind of are breaking the rules. So a gentleman wouldn't do that. Yeah, you have to. If you play, if you want seriously, you'll have to communicate with him through your moves, showing him stuff through your moves. That's the best way to play it. Of course, very often it degenerates into, you idiot! Why didn't you do this? Or like strange looks in the eye where you stare at a piece with intention and go, start to cough and look at a piece and stuff like that. Because, if you don't play seriously, that's what it ends up being, which is fun. But, it kind of adds a new dimension, and it brings it also up to groups of players as opposed to just the 2 players. Shuro is very similar to chess in the fact that it's a 2-player game and is more serious. There's less fun and interaction with that. While actually Turanga brings it to a different level. It's just very funny. Very good. And a good game. I think it's Very interesting.
So Shuro's already a tournament game. We've seen there's been some events played. Now, obviously, you can build your own army. You have terrain on the table. Now, is the people like you, nasty power gaming tournament players, turning up with the broken armies? Or is the internet broken Shuro list? Is it a 4 queens rule everything, or is it the mass prawn assault?
The prawn assault. Well, we've with the tournaments of mini Shuro, which is actually a quarter of the board with 250 points as opposed to the full board with 800 points, just because the big advantage is that you keep games 40 minutes for a game, which means the maximum. They normally finish before, which means you can play a lot of games during the day. And actually, by the way, the next tournament in England would be at Maelstrom Games in November.
Okay.
Maelstrom Games in November, there will be a mini Shuro tournament. You're welcome to come.
What day is that?
Oh, I don't remember the date, but I'm sure that Maelstrom will put it up on. I'll put it on Facebook as well.
I'll find that and I'll put it in my show notes.
Yeah. Fantastic, thank you.
Yeah, so army lists is the one that's becoming a firm favourite. Is the small elite of thing good, or is it the big massed horde rush? Or
I think there's not been enough competitions to actually know if there is a killer list. The two options you have really are to go for lots of pawns and nice cheap pieces and go what we call a Russian army, hordes of infantry, or to actually go for an elite army, queens, rooks, bishops, stuff that is fast and deadly, but obviously you get a much smaller army. There's people that's where you can play mini Shuro in the tournament without queens, and actually just a lot of pawns, as many pawns as possible. Pawns are really good in a small game because they can promote to queen very easily.
Yep.
Yeah, they can get to the other end very quickly because it's just a smaller board. But also there's people that say, no, you always take a queen. Clearly, so powerful, control the entire board. And I don't know the answer to that. I like to see where it goes, but I don't know. And again, mini Shuro has a lot less variables, so there's probably will be easier to get to an optimal build.
Okay, good to go.
With big Shuro, instead with the proper big-sized board, of course, the variables are much bigger. You can have huge armies, all of infantry, all of cavalry, so to speak, knights. But is basically the choice is yours. And you were asking which one you think is better, a big horde or a small elite army. It depends if you're playing with a timer or not. Because obviously the big horde, in chess you only move one piece at a time, it's very slow. Really, really slow. As in, a wall of pawns is really, really, really creeping around the board very slowly. So if you're on timer, maybe that's not the best option. On the other end, it's simple. You don't have to think. Just move pawns forward.
Yep.
But when you face it, I played elite armies against that kind of army, and it's horrendous because you kind of go, right, how do I breach that huge wall of pawns? I'll have to lose pieces to get through. And that's normally what happens. You make a hole in the wall by sacrificing. You have to lose some pieces, make a hole. But then the thing is, if you get behind them, once your queen is behind the wall of pawns, from the back, they are so weak. They're just, they can't support each other. So it's...
But you need to take as many out as you can before they hit the baseline and upgrade to...
Yes, a million
so
queens.
See, it's a lot of dilemmas. So which sort of army do you prefer playing for yourself?
It really depends if it's timed or not.
Okay.
I don't have a favorite build, really. I guess because I'm lazy. No, I played both, to be honest. No, I don't. That's the true answer.
Okay, so is there anything else you want to add about Shuro?
Well, the question that normally get asked is what's next?
Okay.
And the answer is that there's 2 more expansions coming out, one of which is extra terrain. Because at the moment we have those blocks, plinths, which are effectively like fortifications in the game. But we'll add to that woods, swamps, and lakes. And also something that we already started to build in Turanga, which is a link to the 4 elements. Because the 4 players have the colors of the 4 elements and the symbols of the 4 elements. I tried to build a little bit of mysticism into it. And those, as well as the normal terrain, if you want, there would be gates, elemental gates, which actually allow pieces to jump from one piece of the board to the next, if they are the right element. So there's a bit of that building on. And then another expansion, the terrain expansion is called Loka. And the expansion that actually will, the next one will be called Yuddha. And that's effectively a combat system. So imagine dice probably 12-sided dice, where you attack a piece. In chess, the combat system is very simple. If you attack, you win, regardless of what you are, etc. Well, actually, there every piece has a certain number of dice. Say a pawn rolls 1 dice, a bishop or a knight 2, a rook 3, a queen 4, and when you fight, you just would attack with your number of dice against the dice of the opponent, plus possibly a dice for charging, so to speak, for attacking, for when you want to initiate the attack, it gives you an advantage. And then support attacks, as in other pieces that can threaten the same square will give you another dice, and pieces that can defend that square will give a dice to your opponent. You roll the dice, and there will be special results on top, and you compare and compare. And one of the two pieces, either the attacker or the defender, will die. Or both, possibly. Which basically will lead to effectively something that is a bit more like a war game. I mean, obviously, I'm kind of bridging that gap between the two, because I think chess already is a war game, a very stylized one. I'm kind of blurring that line and making it more and more like that. And that, of course, all of these will be completely optional rules. You don't have to use them, but you can play like that. So that's where we're going. After those, possibly not after, but as well as those expansions, there's another thing we are looking at doing with the River Horse, which is actually more like in the card direction. Cards.
Okay.
And there are other things that with my friend in Italy we're working on, which is a bit more linked with electronic stuff and ebooks. Funnily enough,
ebooks.
Yeah, because I've written my own novel. I don't know if you guys. I finished my own novel a couple of weeks ago.
Okay,
my first one, and it's in Italian, so I won't be able to read it yet. But
what genre?
Sci-fi.
Sci-fi.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, sci-fi. Indeed. It's a bit like, The Lord of the Flies?
Yep.
Yeah, it's The Lord of the Flies. In space!
Everything's better in space.
Or on fire.
Yeah.
Or like the guy at Arkham Gaming Center say, in my pants. Because you can always say film titles or song titles and add in my pants, and it's just hilarious. It never ends. It's just never ends being funny. Aliens in my pants. Etc., etc. And so on and so forth.
Okay, so talk to us about Mantic Games then.
Yes.
And the Kings of War game in particular. Because when we spoke to Ronnie, he sort of mentioned he might in the future maybe have a rule set, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
And then within a few weeks, it's all over the internet. Alessio working for Mantic, blah, 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 and all this. So how did that come about?
Well, when I left Games Workshop, Ronnie was there like a vulture, kind of going, ah, ah. No, not quite. I obviously approached Ronnie. We talked about it, and about rule systems. Funnily enough, we were at Salute in the bar of the hotel, and we were just talking about that, and somebody approached you, so we stopped talking about it, and it's Warren from Beast of War, and he goes, guys, oh, he doesn't work for Games Workshop anymore. You should get him to write some rules for you. Yes, what a good idea.
We never thought of that.
Never thought of that. But yes, so I started a bit with those conversations, and basically Ronnie said, yes, I'd like to have a game system, like you said, and if I had any ideas, and I definitely did have ideas. I pretty much had a very strong impact on what the game was going to be like. There were elements, obviously, that Ronnie needed, as in he already had a range, so the game had to be written to that range to represent and sell and support that range. That was the key element in it. Which, in a way, kind of made the game slightly more similar to some other games, commercially available other games, because obviously that's part of what Mantic does as a strategy. So obviously there's a bit of a link there. But the game, for me, I wanted to try something a bit different, something a bit new, something that was, in a way, is a bit more me. It's,
Simple.
Simple. Absolutely. I get it.
You can't say that.
Yes, simple.
Ties
like
back to
me.
earlier, keep it simple.
Oh, dear.
It's true. No, it's very true. It's so true. I'm only a simple person. Yes. The whole idea was to have something that was, fast, simple, easy to learn, easy to teach, easy to pick up, and it's funny because actually when I started to tell people that I know that there would be like 8 pages of rules, the normal answer was, right, okay, so what age is this for? Is it for 12-year-olds or something? And I was like, right. How many pages of rules does chess have? 2? Right. Is that for 12-year-olds? Well, of course, 12-year-olds can enjoy it, but you go, it's not the quantity of the rules that make the game. That's definitely a truth. So, of course, for wargaming is, for the reason we said before, is obviously challenging. You can't really write 2 rules. Well, you could, I suppose, write 2 pages of rules, but that's the next challenge. Bring it down to 2 pages.
How big are the pages?
Well, in the case of Kings of War, actually, they are A5 or slightly smaller than A5 because they will go into the boxes, into the semantic boxes. So yes, it's not very big, and the text is readable. It's a 7-point thing, so it's readable. It's not. You don't need a magnifying glass for reading that. So yes, the amount of space for rules limited. The game very simple, streamlined, but from the experience of playing it now, definitely not a simplistic game, not a game that is not interesting. It is in fact very challenging and tough. And of course, it's early days. We've done one version. There's been this closed beta, which wasn't terribly closed, intentionally, obviously. But the open beta, the public beta, will be actually printed, and it will be literally you'll see printed versions of it. So as well as downloadable ones, and that will, I'm sure, improve, get smoother out. But it's made a very good start. I pick up a lot of enthusiasm about it, which is very encouraging. It's very positive, and there are quite a few interesting new elements in the game.
Okay, so to speak about some of them new elements, one of the mechanics you're using is the fact that you don't remove models as casualties. What was the thinking behind that?
Oh yeah, that's one of the big first questions that when I was presenting my ideas to Ronnie was, do you want a model-based game or a unit-based game? Of course, both of them have advantages and disadvantages. We decided to go for a unit-based game because, frankly, it makes it more different from other games, and also, well, it makes it different from Warhammer, let's say, because that would be the easiest comparison. But also, I think makes it faster, simpler, easier to deal with. Some of the great advantage, for example, is that you don't have characters joining units, which again is a shame from a point of view of literally representing, detailing a battle in a direct way. But on the other end, it's just so much simpler.
Yeah, if you've only got 7 or 8 pages to work with.
Well, that wasn't strictly necessary. I could have asked for more, but I didn't want to. I wanted to keep something that was, again, if every model or unit is a single distinct element on the board, it just lends itself to being a lot faster and simpler. Yeah. So yes, unit-based as opposed to model-based. The big advantage with that is, of course, that one of the big advantages is that you don't have that phase of tidying up after every battle where you have this huge crowd of models. You have to go, oh wait, where is he? Where does he go? You just have your units. You put them on the table, remove them from the table, and they stay there. In fact, some people that want to play this full big, it's becoming their hobby, have already started to make little dioramas with the units.
Yeah, that was the thing that I was just going to say. That's what caught my eye almost straight away. Was you could just stick them on, you make one movement tray or one, even just a base, and it could just be a scene.
Yes, absolutely.
The modelling opportunities are fantastic.
Fantastic. With people, with your warriors stabbing enemies that are dying from the modelling is, potentially fantastic. Absolutely. With people dragging casualties at the back, and it's certainly good from that point of view. Fantastically.
Okay, so touching back onto what we talked about earlier with the games development side of the Warhammer games, how has that influenced the way you're developing this? Particularly the tournament side of things. I've heard you involved in chess clocks and that sort of stuff we was talking about earlier. Is that something you definitely wanted to do, you and Ronnie? You wanted to make it viable for tournament competitive play, or is that just a byproduct of the way you're developing your game?
That was definitely part of the brief. That was something that Ronnie was keen on. He said, and this needs to be suitable for a tournament game, because he thinks the tournament scene is very useful to spread the word, to actually create a lot of enthusiasm and get people engaged. Particularly in the US, is a very strong community. So it's something that certainly is a nice group of people to have on your side if you want, and obviously it appeals to me because that's kind of how I'm minded that way. So yes, it was actually part of the no, this has to be playable in competition. That doesn't mean that the game has to be played in a competitive spirit,
No,
of course.
not.
And I made very sure that actually was try to do both. It was on one side you can play it and enjoy it, simple, easy game, cheerful, play it, relaxed atmosphere with your friends, no problem, easy to pick up for kids, for young people, or also difficult to break for veterans. It's like this is a new challenge, makes you think in a different way, but it's still very engaging. On the other side, yes, we wanted a game that could work for tournament play. And personally, one thing that I hate in tournaments is that component of, I'm winning. I see that I'm ahead in this game, and suddenly I develop the rounds, and I have to go to the loo and stay there 2 hours, and I come back and go, I'm so sorry, there's no time to finish the game. I win.
Don't look at me.
Sorry, it's not normally the toilet with you, is it? I'm winning. Right, everything backwards.
Yeah, move back, boys.
Yeah, time exploitation is something I hate. And on the other end, also the chess clock, the timer, you don't have to use a chess clock, you can use just a timer, but the time factor, the time element in the game, we tried the game with the time on, without the time on. They are two different games. They literally are two different games, two different experiences.
I imagine there's certainly a frantic excitement level that goes up when there's a clock involved.
It certainly is, as I said, is a different experience. The one game without the chess clock is what you normally are used to in this kind of war games. It feels more familiar. It's like, I'm playing a game which has units, etc. A bit like playing Warhammer or Flames of War or some warlord games like Black Powder. And there is a lot of Black Powder, I have to say. I stole a few ideas from Rick in this. It's unit-based, so obviously has some mechanical elements which are more similar. But so if you play without the clock, it's a bit like playing the games. The feeling is similar. It's a different game, it's a different mechanic, but the overall feeling is the same. While actually, if you put the clock on the table and you start to go click, 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 and particularly if you use an old mechanical style clock,
Like Peter Pan, the crocodile coming.
you have that. And the moment that starts, your brain changes. The way you think changes. You change. The game changes. It's a different experience. I mean, I was so surprised when actually, because I had it as an abstract thing in my head, as in, it would be different, it would be interesting, etc. But when I actually got to do it, to try to play the games like that, I was just like, it was mind blowing. It was just so different. It was like, oh my god, move, click, and you just try as fast as possible to get to that click, because that's what starts his clock and then puts him under pressure. And to do that, sometimes you realize you've done the stupidest thing ever, but then you hit the clock, it's too late, and you get hit in the flank, and you've done mistakes. And that's the same for him. And again, the trick, the strategy, if you want, which is the same as in chess, is you have to try to make the best use of his time while he's playing and he's moving his stuff, etc. You have to think ahead about what you're going to do in your time, so you save time that way. And it's just interesting. It's very interesting, I have to say. For me, to actually try it, it was better than I expected it to be. It was just good.
What happens if your time runs out? So if we're playing and I've used all my time, but you've got 10 minutes left.
The moment your flag goes down, your time, if it's a mechanical clock, but anyway, the moment it goes beep, when your time is over, your game time is over. If you're using a chess clock, that is, you lose effectively, in the sense that the all of your army breaks, turns around, routes, and goes, he's lost, we're lost, and just basically, in background terms, represents those times when the panic spreads through your army for maybe no reason at all. You know, the rumors that your general has been killed or something like that. So, and your army disengages and runs, even though maybe you were winning the battle. And that happened in history quite a lot. So that's what it represents in the background terms. In gaming terms, it simply means all of your units die instantly. All of your units die instantly, and then you count victory points, which 99.9%, possibly 100% of the time means you will lose the game. You may lose it a little, or maybe even score a draw, maybe if the enemy has just, one cannon left. You kind of annihilated each other, so it probably counts as a draw. So it may still be a draw on victory points, but your army disappears. Your army falls and runs away. And that obviously means that you have to make sure you finish the turns, because obviously you have a certain number of turns. You finish the number of turns of the game in time, with a little bit of time left, because obviously if you leave your time, if you let your time run out, and of course the defense to that, if you realize you've done it wrong and you don't have any time, then you will have to stop moving your turn. You just go click, I don't move, and hope it doesn't do too much damage to my army. Just effectively go passive and just save the time. We were tinkering with the idea of actually making it less harsh and going, well, okay, when your time runs out, you can't move anymore. That's it. You don't do anything anymore, and your opponent has free reign to do whatever he likes to your troops with the time he has left. That's another possibility. Well, that will be part of the beta testing. I'm sure people will play it one way or the other and let us know what they think. I mean, tournaments can be organized one way or the other, of course. I like the brutality of that system of it's over, so don't let your time finish. Because it's another resource that you have to manage during the game. It's another element that you have to be aware and thinking of. And it's challenging, and I like the brutality of it. It's very, there's no...
This strikes me as a very stressful game.
Yes, if you decide to play it that way, it certainly puts pressure on you. Of course, that's your choice.
Oh no, it sounds very good, very, very good, but stressful.
You may decide that you don't want to play it at all, and I'm sure some people will. I mean, some people will go, "Oh no, I'll just beer, pretzels, banter, and the normal relaxed atmosphere." And that's fine. And some other people go, "Oh, great! All right, I'll play it like that. So in 2 hours it'll be over, or 1 hour. You can decide whatever. Half an hour is probably a bit not long enough, but I say at least an hour. But you can have a game in an hour if it's not a huge game with the points. And you go, that's it, done. An hour played.
I suppose as well that would be especially good for tournament play, because it stop any games running on.
Oh yes.
You'd know exactly when a game was going to finish.
Oh yes.
There'd be no problems with timetables, would there?
Yeah, be spot on. Okay, so back to the mechanics of the game. With this, because I personally have never played a unit-based game rather than a model-based game. So how does it work for like shooting, close combat, inflicting casualties, so to speak? How does that mechanic work?
Well, the casualties are represented whenever you do damage on a unit, whether it's by shooting or close combat. You put you effectively score wounds on that unit. It's not literally physical damage. It's what I call you damage the nerve of that unit, which means that in reality it will be a mixture of casualties and morale, fatigue,
fire,
So it represents all that kind of the unit is losing cohesion. The unit is becoming edgy, less likely to advance and fight, and a bit more likely to maybe hesitate or even turn and run. And through the game, that damage builds up. The way to represent it, I like to represent it with a D12, because the maximum amount of damage really that a unit can take before kind of going is about 12. It's very rare that you can take more than that. You can, but normally you will run before getting to 12. But I like the D12 because it's quite solid, it's different, so you don't get to roll it. You're not tempted to roll it. I just put the D12 behind the units as markers, possibly red D10s, blood or black for undead. But anyway, like a wound marker. But you could write it down. You could have little counters. I mean, Mantic has a lot of little dead casualty guys that you could use behind.
I can soon see Mantic nerve counters being released.
Well, that, yes. Maybe a single counter that has numbers on it, a spinning thing, whatever. That's really up to you. And but the idea is the damage accumulate. Every time you take damage, you have to basically the opponent will try to break your unit by. But that's actually an element we didn't particularly highlight, which is a big difference in why this game can be played as a time game as opposed to other games where actually you cannot. Is because the game has been designed to work like that. The main difference is, in my turn, I will move my units, shoot at your units, and then if I've done damage on them, I will roll myself against your nerve, against your resolution, to try to break your units. And then I go to the combat phase where actually all the units that have charged your units, I will then hit you in combat with my units. They will hit you, and I'll try to break your units, and that's it. That's all I do in my turn. You don't do anything.
So there's no hitting back.
There is no hitting back. No, it's the charge in. And the combat is always solved either by the enemy breaks and runs and is destroyed effectively, because there is no running away per se rules. You just when you run.
Yeah.
Because frankly, historically, not many
regiments actually started to run, and then suddenly decided they didn't want to once they started to do that. But if you don't break them, then you kind of retreat an inch away, and they're free to go unless you've damaged them enough to make them waver, in which case they will just stay there and kind of reorganize and do nothing, which is bad for them because then you hit them
get
again.
charged again, yeah.
Exactly. That's basically when you start to waver, it means you're very close to actual dissolution. That when you start there, it means the unit is almost gone.
Okay.
You can try to help them, I guess, if you really care for them. There are things you can do. You can pull back with that unit and bring in reinforcements or even heal some of the units. Like elves can actually heal damage. They have some spells that can do that. Undead, obviously, are very good at doing that. They just get back a lot of damage easier. The dwarves don't. The dwarves don't do that. They don't have any healy stuff. What they do have is that while other units waver and hesitate, the dwarves don't. 50% of the times they would just shake themselves and just charge back, so they're less hesitating. But what I was saying is this mechanic of I do things, you do things is different, and it's what allows you to play the game that way. Of course, I see the objection. So what's happening there? Are the guys not in combat anymore? Why are they pulling back, etc.? And I'm going, well, clearly that represents an ongoing fight. They're still fighting. There's been a lull. They might just pull back to reorganize, etc. And the surges of they charge, we charge is part of the officer rallying them and go, get back in, fight. Is that kind of, it represents an ongoing fight. It's just they're not literally in base contact. And the other objection I've heard is like, but that will mean that you spend an entire turn just watching and doing nothing. That must be terribly boring. And I've seen actually there's a nice online cartoon about that, about, the new game is so exciting, it's almost like watching grass grow kind of thing.
But then, funny. Like you said earlier, if it's a timed game, you need to be using that to know what you're going to do so you can do it quicker.
In a time game, the problem doesn't exist at all. Yeah. As I said, you just thinking, kind of go, ooh, and also you are doing stuff in a way, you're removing casualties from your units. Sorry, not removing casualties, removing units if you lose them. In a more relaxed game, even then, we thought it's actually interesting because when the enemy charges you or shoots you, it's still damaging, putting counters on your model. So your attention is there to look that it's not, look at what it's doing. It's like, was it 3 points of damage you did? Was it 2? You rolled a 3, not a 4. So you actually are following what's happening. And when he rolls the roll for your nerve, that's the roll that you're kind of going, and you go, come on, and then the roll comes in, and you go either, whew, or you go, oh no. Well, and again, there's things you can do in your turn to kind of help, because if you put a character behind within 6 inches, an expiring character within a certain range, then if he breaks your unit, you can go, reroll that.
Okay.
Yeah, and he has to reroll it. So you can. You're also thinking of your strategy. You're thinking what to do next. You're following the game. We never found that to be a problem at all. But we'll see.
Okay, so that's the Kings of War game then. Is this how far away from completion is this then?
The closed beta is done. We are now about to publish the public beta. Which is effectively a printed version, downloadable version of the new draft, the new version, the beta, which for me is improved from the first one. Of course, it would be. And the idea, the great joy with all of this is because the rules are free and they're small, we can produce another version relatively easily. So I think I don't know how long, that's for Ronnie to decide, but not ages, you will have a new version, the first effectively version 1. If this is like version 0, the public beta, then you would have, this is like the pilot episode, then you would get the first. And again, it's so much lighthearted and easier to control these rules that actually, because they're so small and because they're free, that actually all that feedback will be useful, and we'll read it, react to it. We obviously won't react to every comment, because obviously it's impossible, and some of them I blatantly don't agree. But it's just very useful to see where there are issues that everybody seems to agree with and where you can do stuff with. For example, one concern that lots of people voiced was that the undeads were too slow, just too slow. The undead army was unbelievably slow. There was this one guy saying, well, if I start the game and you're deploying your entire army on your baseline, my undead army by the 6th turn will not have reached you. I'm like, oh yes, must do something about that, hey? And it was a game where charging is important because that means you get the first go in, the first attempt on destroying the enemy, and the first of the path. So charging is very important, particularly charging in the flank area. That's devastating. That's how you win the game, really, is outflanking. But the undead were, because they couldn't double the move even when they were charging, let's say just stuck at the same speed, they were always the ones that are charged, so that it was a bit much. So I toned that down a bit. I started to do things to make them a bit more fast, give them a bit more flexibility. So is very useful feedback from the customers out there. Certainly.
Excellent. Okay, so I think that about concludes the interview. We've got a couple of quick fire ones before we go, though. Is there anything else you want to add about your River Horse or your Mantic work or anything at all?
Well, the only other thing that I could say is that for Mantic, I'm working as you know as a consultant, as in I'm developing that game for them. But at the same time, there will be some interesting stuff soon coming out from Warlord Games. I'm involved in a few projects with them, and
anything you can tell us about in a bit more detail, or is it
well,
all hush-hush?
We could talk about the closest of the projects, the one that is nearest to completion and to release, which I think John would be happy for me to disclose at this stage, which is, if you look at the range that Warlord Games have, obviously they sell a lot of Romans and Celts and Dacians and basically ancient armies. So Black Powder, great success, great book, great game, very enjoyable game. It seems almost natural that it follows that. Obviously, is about Black Powder. So obviously, wait. This company mostly sells, well, not mostly, but sells a lot of ancients. Black Powder, you go, possibly the space for a not Black Powder game in there. So that's obviously what we've been working on with other people. Yeah, that's the first project. There are other projects, even more exciting, I have to say. Really, really cool stuff coming up, but obviously I can't say yet.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll keep an eye out for them in the future.
Please do.
Okay, so a quick fire round, just some light-hearted questions, so not necessarily about wargaming in general, but we've done this with the last few interviews, haven't we? So we'll start off with, do you have a favourite film?
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
Of course, of course. I mean it, for God's sake. Yeah,
that's very true. Yeah.
Actually, Lord of the Rings clearly has become my favorite film because I am a devoted Tolkien fan. I've always read. I'm a kind of guy that reads Lord of the Rings once a year, and Christmas time normally is the treat, is reading Lord of the Rings again. I love it to bits. It made me cry of sheer emotion. So it's definitely Lord of the Rings. Before Peter Jackson did that, of course, my favorite film used to be Excalibur.
Oh, yes. So, my next question, I don't know if I want to ask now because I know what the answer is going to be. So,
well, your second favorite film?
No, not
Excalibur.
Not counting Lord of the Rings. What's your favourite book or author? Because I imagine Lord of the Rings would have been the book.
Yes, Lord of the Rings, definitely. Tolkien is the favorite one. That's a difficult question. My favorite author. After Lord of the Rings, that is. After Lord of the Rings. Oh, God.
Do you read anything else other than Lord of the Rings?
No, I just read that over and over again. No, I read a lot of stuff. That's the problem, is which one would I think is the best? I don't know. There's sci-fi authors that have been very important for me. Asimov has been very important. Harry Harrison, again, is very good. There's quite a lot of them. Arthur C. Clarke. There's so much out there.
So we'll leave it at Lord of the Rings then, eh?
I can't pinpoint an author that actually I would say is my second best favorite author, really.
No. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so what would be your proudest gaming achievement? Whether it's either something you've written or something when you've played a game and you've beat a particularly tough opponent, or I don't know, you won an Origin Award for your Lord of the Rings work, didn't you?
Yes.
Would it be something like that? So proudest gaming achievement.
Gaming achievement. The winning the Italian tournament, even though it was a small thing, was something that kind of changed my life, and I still remember going on that stage and raising the sword and being the guy that is raising the sword. That was a cool experience at the time. So as far as gaming in the sense of playing the game, I guess that was good. As far as writing, I would say 40k 5 I'm very proud of the stuff that I've done for Games Workshop. Kings of War I'm immensely excited about and proud, and is my thing a lot more than Games Workshop stuff, because obviously I have less controls and checks, so I'm more free to do what I like. So I love that. The prospect of some of the stuff that I'm going to do for Warlord Games is extremely exciting as well. So as far as writing, it's been more difficult. Lord of the Rings, as you say, it was my first system that I looked after, and because it is Lord of the Rings, it's so strongly, I don't know. So
there's a lot in there.
Has a lot in there.
Okay, and last but not least, do you have a guilty pleasure?
Say wrestling. Go on.
No. Guilty pleasure.
Must be a tough one.
Yeah, there's too many of them.
Is that on Lord of the Rings as well? Lord of the Rings, but Lord of the Rings. Game achievement, Lord of the Rings. And guilty pleasure, yeah, it's Lord of the Rings.
Guilty pleasure. I suppose I love eating. I eat too much. I make myself sick out of eating. Eating is possibly the one thing that I do a lot of, and I possibly should reduce a bit because it's just good. Eating?
Eating, okay.
Fine, yeah.
Overeating?
Okay, so that rounds it all up. Thanks very much for coming down here and having a chat to us. And yeah, good luck in your future projects. With that, there's free shipping to anywhere in the UK with all Odd Games purchases. www.oddgames.co.uk. Back to Basics and our proud sponsors of the Bad Dice Podcast. Based in Adelaide, Australia, they serve both the national and international gaming communities with quality resin products. If you visit www.backtobase-ix.com, you can view all their fantastic products, which includes resin bases, terrain, modular gaming tables, and even a wide variety of movement trays to suit all shapes and sizes for your 8th edition armies. The Back to Basics movement trays come in pretty much any size you could possibly need. If you find something that you want and it's not on their website, they'll even make it for you. The Back to Basics resin bases come in all different themes to suit any fantasy army. Designs include brick, cobblestone, desert, dirt, dungeon stone and forest, amongst many more. So if you like what you hear and fancy picking up some of the Back to Basics range, visit www.backtobase-ix.com. When you go to the checkout, insert the code BADDICE and you'll receive a 10% discount. That's www.backtobase-ix.com. Okay, so that was Alessio. Now, I had a great time recording that this morning. Ever such a nice chap. He stayed around for about an hour afterwards, just chatting, just general crap and Warhammer stories and things like that. So, yeah, brilliant. So thanks very much, Alessio, if you're listening.
Yeah, thank you, Alessio.
Coming down and chatting to us. I'm looking forward to playing the Kings of War game. What do you think?
Well, I've had a good look at the rules, and it's different.
Yes.
Different. And I think it suits sort of Mantic's ideals, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
But yeah, it does seem quite cool. And I'm very intrigued as well to see what people do. I think I've touched on it in the interview. Because you don't remove men, you just buy a unit of 40 and it stays at 40 forever. What you can do with that.
The problem is if you do that, it sort of counts them out of using them for Warhammer.
Well, maybe.
So, I don't know. It depends if you're going to get people playing just the Mantic game or what.
Or the argument to that is as well, they're cheap enough.
Yeah, you could do two
know what I mean?
armies.
You could maybe use that as a centerpiece type thing. A nice horde of Elven Spearmen or the Reverend Guard from the Vampires. And do something really cool with them, and just use that when you play Kings of War. If you do use them for Warhammer as well, that could work.
Okay, I get that. Yeah, so okay, so moving on from that, we're going to talk a bit about the Warlords GT. Now, we recorded while we was there, and we've also going to add to that recording with a few extra bits and the rundown of the results, so you can get that in the Snake Eyes section. By the time you hear that, by the time you hear this episode, the Warlords GT recording will be up there, so check that out at baddice.co.uk/Snake Eyes.
Plug.
Yep, got to be done. Pays the bills and all that.
It does pay the bills, yes.
Yeah, so Yeah, what did you think to the event then? So, quick rundown of what it was. It was 6 games.
6 games of Warhammer.
2,200
straight out the book. No comp. The scenarios 1 to 6 out the book.
In order as well.
In order,
wasn't it?
yeah. There was no degree of victory. Victory points were the goal difference at the end. It was 1 point, 10 points, 30 points, basically.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, and I thought it was really good, really useful tool, I think, as well, to move forward with 8th edition.
Yeah, it laid the groundwork for building any future comp systems or anything like that.
Definitely.
So, first and foremost, how did Boobies do?
He'd never died.
Never died.
Not once.
Including me. When
Not
I
even
played him.
against the filthy, filthy Dark Elf Horde.
Yeah, so we played each other game 5, didn't
Yeah,
we?
Sunday morning.
And it was quite funny because it was the random.
It was the diagonal deployment, and on a 1, your unit stays off the board.
Yeah, that's the one. So I rolled first, didn't I? And
That's
I set
right.
my army up first, and you cleared off for a fag or pig or whatever. Came back, and I imagine I'd set up pretty much how you imagined me to, which was
In lines.
fast stuff on the flanks.
Yeah, in lines at the back.
Yeah. And then you started rolling for your stuff, and your Hellstrom.
Well, I'd had a bit of a plan. I sat there reading the rulebook, and I couldn't see anywhere where it says if you roll a 1, you had to come back on the board. So I was kind of hoping that, because at this point I'm thinking, well, Boobies is just dead. Just no way I'm getting away from all this shooting. I thought, I'll just roll a 1 and keep it off the board. That'll teach him. He'll not kill it.
And that was a fail.
That was a fail, yeah. Instead, the Hellstrom, the Mortar, and the Engineered stayed off.
Yeah, which I was ecstatic about.
You're doing a little dance.
Yeah. So by the time they came back on, I think I took 300 or 400 points off you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I'd lost a unit of Dark Riders through my own stupidity. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which there's no need to.
Made me chuckle.
And then I think you made a mistake, didn't you? Charging your Hydra. I played my Ben Curry Silence song on you.
Well,
And I said,
to be honest, you're saying that, but I didn't hold out much hope for the game.
yeah, fair
to
enough.
be fair, and especially the way it had been going. And I thought, well, if I can get rid of this Hydra quick, we've got half a chance. Do you know what I mean? Well, you know,
Yeah, I
it
think
meant
that.
then that the Knights could then push forward towards where your Spearmen and your Wizards were.
So the Huntsmen had deployed near the Hydra, hadn't they?
That's right,
And
yeah.
I decided to use my breath weapon to burn them off,
Yeah.
which saved me, I don't know, if you take that, swap that for me burning on a ranked unit or something.
Yeah.
But the 3 Huntsmen that fled rallied, and I used them to block the charges to my Hydra, and I popped the
right,
Hydra
yeah.
an inch away from them. So the only way you could charge was to combo charge your Griffin and your Huntsman. And he was
Yeah.
like, should I do it? And I was, go on. It's all about the story. It's
Well,
all about the story.
The Hydra had taken, what, 3 wounds, 2 wounds?
Taken 2.
So it wasn't within the realms of possibility that you'd kill him.
Yeah, it was a chance.
Do you know what I mean? Because him and the Griffin going before the Hydra. Obviously, you get handlers at the same time as actually with the handlers, both in
Yep.
History 5. So went for it, and then the Griffin went about 2 inches.
Yeah, so the Huntsman went in on its
Was it
own.
1-1-2, wasn't it, for
Yeah.
the charge?
Huntsman went in on their own, and it was at that point you realise that you've got all your magic and your shooting, which can't shoot this Hydra.
Yes.
I think after that you had a fail with your Wizards, didn't you?
Well, yeah, but you know,
Not so much one on my right because you had a good chance of clearing the Harpies off, which killed it.
Yeah.
The one on the left, I don't think you saw the combat reform.
no.
You positioned it behind the Knights, and I was able to pivot the
Yeah.
Hydra enough to charge, be able to see the Wizards
that's
still,
right, yeah.
charge past the Knights. So by then, that was the game. Then I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, like I say, especially after the first turn of the 2 war machines not turning up, so I missed a turn of shooting, and then the cannon doing 2 wounds to the Hydra.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We were discussing this actually, weren't we? Like turn 3. You know the differences that one
It
dice
wasn't
roll
the
can
cannon.
make.
It was the cannon I regened.
The
Cannon rolled a 1 to wound, and then it was
Yeah.
your fireball that did the 2 wounds.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. If the 1 had been a 5 or a 4,
Yep.
but you know that's Warhammer. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
But the Griffin got the Hydra.
Got
in
the
the end,
Hydra in
didn't
the
it?
end. Yeah.
I
yeah.
chased off
Yeah.
the Wizard, and you chose to flee instead of getting
Yeah.
the Hydra behind your lines. And I went into the side of the stubborn crossbowman.
That's right.
And I thought I'll go in because there's a good chance I'm going to flatten enough And then when you counter charge, I can flatten loads more and everything will break even though
Yeah.
you've charged. And no, you just ran in and flattened him, didn't
Yeah,
you?
yeah. A bit of creative initiative roles
Yeah.
to make sure that the guy with the room fan got the death blow.
Yeah, instead of just doing one hit and then the warrior priest taking his glory.
Yeah. He outranks him.
It's like Cutthroat Caverns with Warhammer.
Yeah, it was a bit. Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, it was a good game. I enjoyed that.
Yeah,
It was,
I did too.
So what did you think to the format of the layout of the weekend with the 4 games on the
Well,
Saturday?
I didn't like it personally. It was too long a day.
Yeah.
It meant effectively you were basically going there to play Warhammer, which is all well and good, but I quite like a bit of the social side as well. I mean, by the time that we finished game 4, because there was 8 of us going out for a curry. We were staying with little Rob, and we were all going for a curry.
Yep.
And by the time I think it was me, you, and Greg were finished and sort of packed up, ready to go, we went, leaving Adam Hall still playing. I think Steve was still playing. We got back to Rob's, threw on a different T-shirt, and walked to a curry house, which is 5 minutes away. And we got there at 10:15.
Yeah, so it was a bit of a long day.
Do you know what I
Man
mean?
was at the venue at what?
No, well, the round was supposed to start at 9:30, I think, first round.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
I mean, don't get me wrong, they had a bit of a delay starting, which I assume was down to late arrivals.
Yep.
And then they had a bit of a mare. Was it round 2 to 3 where the spreadsheet just died? And they
Yeah,
had
they
to
had a
basically,
spreadsheet fail.
yeah, they had to just rewrite it and import all the scores over. So they lost another half an hour, 45 minutes there. So we were a little bit behind, which happens, especially at a big event. Because there was a small 40k going on as well, wasn't it? What was it?
Yeah.
40, 50 players in 40k?
Yeah, something like that, about 40 players.
Yeah, so there was, 160
Yep, that's it.
people playing. So,
So there's a lot there.
yeah, a lot there. Prizes were good. Food was okay. Nothing spectacular. The whole venue's great. Cheap beer, apart from don't start serving till 12, which
Annoyed
surprised
you
me.
no end.
Well, it did a bit, especially the fact that we've been there a year before and they drank them out of Guinness in an hour because they had a cheap bar on.
Yeah.
I think cider and Guinness were £1.50 all weekend. They ran out of cider Saturday about 7 o'clock. So you have to drink Koppenberg, which I don't know. It just surprises me. I mean, I think it's a license to print money.
Yeah.
160 wargamers, will drink all day long.
Oh, of course they will.
You keep giving them beer, and they'll keep drinking it.
Yep.
If you're running out, you're just taking money off yourselves.
Yeah.
Which having had the tournament there 1 year, I'm very surprised that they let that happen. And this is nothing to do with Ant or the Warlords at all.
Oh,
This is
the venue.
The venue. It baffles me. It's just easy money.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that.
And same with breakfast as well. That took so long.
What, for the cobs to come out?
Yeah, ordering a bacon cob took 30 minutes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that seems strange.
You cook a fuckload of bacon, live on the lights.
Yeah, because people will eat
Yeah,
it.
people are here.
Yeah.
So yeah, small things like that kind of surprised me.
Yeah.
Again, nothing to do with the Warlords. This is more the venue's shortcomings, I suppose. Other than that, it was pretty darn good. Oh, they had a PA fail as well, didn't they?
Yeah, a bit of a PA fail.
Yeah, but
We're picking on the negatives here, though.
Well,
it was a good event.
it was a good event. I mean, again, the negatives there, the bar was a bit bizarre, but the PA, I can't see how you can get it because it's a sports stadium,
Yeah.
sports hall. So it's
The acoustics are
it's
awful.
25, 30-foot ceiling in a gym.
The sound just disappears.
You're not going to hire a PA system to do that. You look at Warhammer World and they've got a proper setup, with speakers all the way around the room. And even then, that's quite hard to hear. You hire a PA system, you're just not going to do it. You're better off getting some dude shouting, which is what happened in the end. But again, I think they've learned from that, haven't they?
Yeah. But yeah, it was a great event. So we've got some winners. So congrats to Michael Biggs, first place with Demons of Chaos.
Horror Horde.
It was the three big demon units,
Yeah.
which is proving the new hotness. Double flamers, 2 single fiends, big block of bloodletters, big block of demonettes, big block of horrors, really big block of horrors, and then characters were Zinch Herald, Khorne Herald, and Slaanesh Herald.
Was there not 2 Slaanesh Heralds
Might have been, yeah.
in their pants just to keep the ASF going?
I think he had 1 siren song.
Okay.
Second place, Bobo with the Lizardman Skirmish Death List, Solo Death Slan, 3 units of Chameleon Skinks, 5 or 6 units of Standard Skinks, 3 units of 3 Pterodons, 2 single Salamanders.
His deployment against Will in Game 5
was brilliant.
was a thing of beauty, and it really did look quite pretty.
Yep.
Everything was really symmetrical, all in long, thin lines.
Yeah, all the
Just
Skinks are going in
stocked
lines.
with war machines, and it did look quite nice.
Yeah.
It's like a Japanese sand guard.
And he came and fetched us, didn't he?
Yeah.
He came and walked over and said, "You've got to come and see this."
Yeah.
So we took a photo of it. You could see it on Twitter. Third place was Paul Brown. Congrats to Paul.
Yes, well done, Paul.
First place in, I think, at an event. No, did he get placed in at the Tempest Rising event?
I don't know.
Might have done.
They didn't give placings at Tempest, did they?
Oh, no, you're right there, of course.
It was
You're right.
Best General
So-
and then Big Fish went out.
Yeah, so Paul was using vampire counts.
Yes.
The list,
Apparently vampire counts are just rubbish in 8th edition, just can't work.
Yeah. See, I did say one of my tips was the
Mm-hmm.
vampires. I think you tipped demons to win in the last episode. You tipped demons to win the event, and you was right.
See? Up here
Yep.
thinking.
That's that. So yeah, congrats to Paul. Best painted, Steve Wren, Orcs and Goblins. Again, it's not his first. I'm sure it won't be his last. And
I didn't even know that was going on.
didn't you?
Nope.
It was next to the food and the dinner queue.
No.
Okay,
Missed that completely.
fair enough. And Best Sports, Eddie McWalter.
Yes. Well done, Eddie.
Again, not his first. I'm sure it won't be his last. So yeah, last but not least, teams event.
Yeah.
Bad Dice and a squadron of ringers. Me, yourself,
Adam
Bobo,
Hall.
Adam Hall,
Greg Milne and Michael Biggs.
Michael Biggs. Yeah. So cheers to them guys for helping us out when we was a player down.
I think the worst round we had as well at the whole tournament was
The last one.
Was the last one with 4 losses and 2 wins,
Yep.
and that was 2 of our team playing each other.
Yes.
So
Okay, so that's the Warlords GT. If you want to hear it in more detail, particularly mine and Ben's games, and some stuff from the event, you can sign up to Snake Eyes section
Yep.
and listen to that.
and also as well, check out the Warhammer forum because they've announced a date for next year.
Warlords have announced a date already?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
And I think it's the,
Can't remember
the
what it
same
is.
weekend, is it?
I think it's a similar weekend, and I certainly recommend it.
Okay, I noticed the Midlands Open had done that as well, hadn't they?
Yeah.
So next year, 2011, it's the 17th and 18th of September.
Yep.
So yeah, that's in quite quick. Midlands Open is already announced as well, and that's either the 15th and 17th or the 29th and 31st of July.
Yep.
So yeah, these events are getting further and further ahead already.
Yeah, I mean, but then is that such a bad thing?
No, of course it's not.
You know what I mean? I suppose you're booking venues that far ahead, aren't they? So why not tell
nail
people?
your event down,
Yeah.
get people interested, put your rules pack out 6 months before
Yeah.
or whatever.
Also, as well, keeps the calendar kind of free.
Yes.
So yeah.
Okay, so I think that's about the end of the show, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got 2 shout-outs, though, to some listeners who have hooked me up with some Skaven.
Yeah, so you mentioned this on the last episode that you wanted some bits.
I
and
did, yeah.
We had 2 nice chaps email in with the fact that they've got some toys for you. So
Yeah.
the first one was...
Was Ricky Me,
And what did he give you?
some sensor bearers, some of the older sensor bearers.
And then there's Luke Coxedge.
Yes, who sent me a load of old Plague Monks and a Warfight Throw as well. And also a very funky joinery/timber catalogue, which got me all excited.
What did you do? High-end housing?
Yeah,
building
all sorts,
materials?
parquet floors, that kind of thing.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, it's really, really funky.
So you've
stuff.
just had a nosy through that, have you?
I had a nosy, and then the wife had a nosy, and was like,
Ooh.
"Can we have no,
No. All too expensive.
yes, oak skirting board and all that sort of thing." Oh dear.
Yeah, very expensive.
So yeah, so thanks to those 2, much appreciated.
Okay, so before we sign off, thanks to our sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to them guys for sending the stuff in.
Definitely.
Tournament's coming up. You're at the GT in 2 weeks today. as we're
GT, 2
recording.
weeks, yeah,
So that's the 9th and 10th
that's right.
of October. The same weekend, I am at the War Out West down in Wiltshire. Ian sponsored an episode a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. That's the one where you get the Subway for lunch, yeah?
Yes, so it obviously worked. It got at least one person
Yeah,
signing
yeah.
up, which was me. So I'm going down there. So yeah, good. Next episode should have some good stuff from tournaments, some more 8th edition, see how things are going. I'll try and chat to some of the guys down at the one I'm going to. You'll probably be outside smoking and drinking too much to talk to anyone at yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least I'm honest.
We've recorded an episode with Andrew Chesney this morning after we recorded with Alessio. Just a quick chat about just Warhammer in general.
Shooting the breeze, really, wasn't it?
that was it. That we're going up on the Snake Eyes section. So plenty of stuff on there which you should sign up for.
Yep.
It only costs $10 for the year. Nice and cheap. Bugger all, really, when you compare it to what you get. And, yes, baddice.co.uk/Snake Eyes. As for the rest of things, what, Twitter?
Twitter.
Twitter's what we follow, go on the most, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've got the Facebook, Bad Dice Facebook. But the Bad Dice Twitter is, I think, the one that you want to be following.
Without a doubt.
It's got all our comings and goings. So make sure you follow us on Bad Dice_podcast on Twitter. Check them out, and we'll see you next time on the Bad Dice podcast.
Ta-ra, guys.
The preceding podcast was brought to you by Ben and Ben Productions. If you actually enjoyed the show and feel the need to tell other people about it, you can leave a positive review on iTunes. You can contact both your hosts at thebens@baddice.co.uk, or you can contact us individually on Ben Curry at baddice.co.uk or Ben Johnson at baddice.co.uk. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Bad Dice Podcast.